Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Good morning, good morning. There she
Good
is.
morning. Good morning.
Yes, morning, morning, morning.
Oh,
Hey, hey, hi, Jessica. Hello, hello, hello.
hello,
Hello,
hello.
hello, hello. Wonderful, 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 wonderful. You are well, I'm assuming you have recovered.
Yeah, I'm still very tired, but I know it's not the fact that I stayed up, for 16 hours straight. Like I worked from like 4 p.m. to, 8 or 4 p.m. midnight to 4 p.m. that day. And, um, because yesterday I slept like majority of the day. I even went to bed
Ah,
early
good,
because in the
good,
middle of
good, good,
typing
good,
of everything, like in the middle of typing everything, I was starting to fall asleep and I'm like, yep, I need to go to bed. So,
good, good.
um, but this is more of okay, so a little bit of backstory on this house. Um, the original owner of this house built the house in 1911. And then he sold it to another, but he was also a prominent, his family was very prominent, family, and that basically kickstarted a lot of the economy here in Nebraska. That worked with coal, lumber, things like that. And then the second owner, he that was sold to a second owner named Bennett S. Martin, and Bennett was the mayor of Lincoln, um, as well as a very prominent man in a lot of the economic things that happened here and booms and stuff like that. Um, but anyways, this house is it's very much so haunted. There's quite a few, and a couple of times, there was a battle, kind of like there's a couple times where was sitting at the table and I wasn't even tired, and but like all of a sudden, like my felt like my body was vibrating, and then my vision started to like kind of get darker, like go black almost, and I almost slammed my head
Ah,
into the table. And the residents had seen it and they're like, "You good?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I don't know what that was. It was really weird." But then after that happened, I started feeling extremely drained, like energy wise. Like my internal energy was like it was like trying to fight whatever it was, and it was like, it was really weird. And so like now it's not a physical tired, it's not a mental tired, it's not an emotional tired, it's literally an energy tired. Like,
yeah,
so
yeah.
today I'm going to do more self-care, and I'm going to listen to some of my 8D audio that helps me. Um, and then I'm also going to go for a walk, be outside, kind of reconnect with nature, things like that. Because usually when, um, energetically, especially as well as spiritually, I'm feeling very drained. And spiritually, I don't mean in like a religion stance, but spiritually, like
Yeah,
personally, like my own
yeah,
spirit. And so, like, just reconnecting with nature really helps me. It really helps energize me.
yeah.
Um, and my mom and Cher she had also mentioned getting obsidian, so that's what I'm going to do this week before I go back to work. I wasn't prepared. Nobody told me that this house was haunted. Like, I was not, and there's one in the basement that does not. Yeah, there's one in the base. There's like one in the basement that is not very nice, and it stays down there, but it presents itself as a little girl. And I'm
Interesting.
like, yeah, no, I'm
Yeah,
done.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, and there's a
yeah,
lot of things like it this weekend. They said the house was the
yeah.
most active this weekend than it ever has been.
Ah,
Like,
interesting,
yeah.
interesting, interesting. You know, I think that probably all places are haunted. It's just, you know, in some places, some people can access and see it more easily than others. So,
Yeah.
that is very often a function of like tiredness. You know, when people are extremely tired, then things work differently and they can access different parts of themselves. So,
Yes.
so what I'm trying to say is
Yeah.
that the world is made up of energy, right?
Oh yeah.
There isn't actually any hard stuff, right? All stuff that we think is hard is just energy, right?
Hmm.
An atom, it's energy, right?
Yeah.
There's no actual physicality in it. It's all energy. So
Yes.
uh, we perceive things, what we perceive as matter. In other words, if you take E equal mc square, you rearrange it a little bit, you put m on its own, then you're going to get m is equal to E divided by c squared, right?
Hmm.
Okay. So you get matter is equal to energy divided by or slowed down by speed of light squared, right?
Oh yeah.
Speed of light squared is just a very big number. It's not an infinite number. It's a finite number. It's just a very large number, right? So so in other words, you take energy and you slow it down or you divide it by a lot, and you get matter,
Yes.
right? And we know this. We know this, right? When you take a steam and you slow it down, what do you get?
You get it becomes more like you get like that condensation, that water
It's still water.
condensation.
Sorry. It
Yeah.
seems like a trick question, right? Okay, you take water and you slow it down, and what do you get?
Ice.
Exactly. So my point is that we already know you can take a gas and you slow it down, you get a liquid. You slow the liquid down, you get a solid, right? So this is not a very hard concept for us to grasp and understand.
No.
And if you actually look at the molecules of 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 water and of ice, and of a gas, you can see them move around. That movement is called Brownian movement, right? Or Brownian movement. And you see them zipping around, and in the gases they move around faster. And so this is it. Now, what exactly is that mechanism for heating and slowing? For slowing down energy? Well, you'd say, okay, heating and cooling, but I don't think those are the only mechanisms, right, involved.
No,
So
there isn't.
yeah, you get mechanisms, things like intent that come into things, and then
Hmm.
you actually really get down to energy, and you say, well, what is energy? Energy has intent. And you might as well say energy is intent. It's one and the same thing, right? So take the very basic energy, right? Like an electron or a proton. They all do something. An electron has a charge, positive or negative. That's an intent. Yes. And then they start combining together, right? They make up, all your chemicals, oxygen, hydrogen, whatever, right? Or your all your elements, and all those elements combine in a particular way. Intent again, right? So
Yeah.
when you understand this, it's a whole different ballgame. Right now, though, the when we get like tired or any kind of difference, we get pushed out of our normalcy. We get to be able to perceive energy directly.
Yes.
All right. So now, what we do with this energy that we perceive directly, we typically tend to take it, and unfortunately, most people don't know what it is, and because it's new and foreign and different,
Oh,
then
it's
all
not
they
foreign and
do,
different for me.
right, right. Well, that's what I'm trying to say, though.
Yeah.
They take what is actually new and foreign and different, and they translate it into something known. Yes.
Hmm.
So, right. So now you just getting you recreating another world just similar to the one that you know. So, well, you see an energy and it's a blob and it's an amorphous thing. Well, it's a ghost, right? So it gives a way to
Oh.
make it. So what I'm trying to say is that if you aware of this process of describing things to fit a pre-existing model, now you can say, well, wait a second, let me just simply perceive it for what it is and not
Oh.
interpret the energy. See?
Yeah, no, what I was saying, like after like last night was when I did the research on this house. I didn't do anything else prior to this. Um, and nobody told me like at all about anything in this house. I just went, and the minute you get in there, there are times where you feel like you get turned around even though you know where you're going. You're like, I
Yeah,
don't, you know what I
yeah,
mean? So
yeah.
there's a whole different feel to this house. And I know that there's a lot of like
Absolutely.
residual energy from
Right,
previous people that have
right,
been in there.
right, right,
Um,
right.
you know what I mean? I
So,
know
so
this part.
yeah. So what I'm trying to say is that when it comes to perceiving energy, set aside all all preconceptions, right?
Yeah.
Whether it be residual energy from previous people, that may still be an interpretation. It may be stuff that just happens to be in the earth on the spot, and somebody
But when
came
it's
and built their
attacking
house
your
on it.
own spiritual like self, that's when you know that it's something else.
Right,
Like that's when
right,
you
right.
know,
I'm
you know
saying
what I
though,
mean?
so again, put aside the word attack. It may be trying to communicate, not attack. See? So when you really start to deal with energy directly, that it really gets us to pay attention to how much we describe the world based on pre-existing assumptions. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and now in order to truly perceive it, you got to set all that aside, right? So it
Oh,
may be that it may, I'm not saying it isn't what you've come to conclude it is. I'm simply saying don't jump there, don't assume there, set aside and be open
mhm.
to it being something else entirely, right? Because so often when it comes to perceiving energy directly, it's out of our experience and we force it into our experience, right? So,
Yeah, no,
and
I've
there's many,
experienced this before multiple times. Like I said,
say
like
again.
I'm a sensitive when it comes to certain things and
Right,
especially
right,
emotions with people.
right, right.
So, um, like me now I wasn't prepared. So yes, now I can see where you're going with this is
Yeah,
preparing myself for the next time so I'm not
yeah, yeah. And it's to
drained.
be right. So the practice is all right. So yeah, you are entering into an entirely new universe where
Yes.
nothing is the same, right? Now, you can get only so far by making everything, translating it in your mind, in your awareness, in your understanding, translating it into the known and the familiar, right? But it isn't that. You're going to see it as something that appears to be similar to what you already know.
But
But
what
this
about
is
disembodied voices?
right, right. That's my point, right? So all of it is, in other words, you forcing something that's very different into a an idea, into a model, right? Into a format, and it's not. It's only going to work so far, right? Only going to get you so far, and then it's going to start to break down. So what I'm trying to say is not that that isn't necessarily possible. Anything is possible when it comes to energy. Absolutely anything. But what it will do, it will narrow your perception of what's going on, right? And it will only give you a particular type of a perception. However, if you go into this with complete and utter openness and be available and aware and prepared to perceive whatever, right? And new things, things that you never imagined, never understood. Now it will change the whole ball game, right? And you'll be in a situation where you'll actually be able to learn what things are from scratch because you're going to have to create it and put it together and figure it out and deduce things and not interpret. In other words, it will be a very big game changer. I have somebody else that is in a similar. They do massage, interestingly enough, and cranial sacral, and they starting to perceive energy, and because they don't interpret whatever they perceive, sometimes it kind of puts a pressure on them to do things. And they said, well, like I said to the client, well, I've never done this before, but I really feel like I need to do this. And they will do unusual things, and it has incredible effect. And then the person would say, oh, that was, and it would have some significance to the person. So, but it's because they set aside all interpreting and they just learn to act and do and perceive. And this is very, very powerful. Otherwise, it simply becomes something that's sort of like, well, a little addition and an aside and doesn't really have much value. But perceive energy directly has incredible value. It's a really very powerful thing. But we need to have that openness and not interpret, right? And not force it into a pre-existing package. Yes.
Well,
So
yeah, but there's no, I guess to me right now, um, I haven't, I, I'm not saying that I can't. but right now I have not been able to see anything, like see it as anything other than what it really is for me. Um and that's just because I do personally like my own and I'm going to say beliefs on this one because it
Yeah.
is that
Yes. Yes.
there are, there's a whole like um essentially astral planes separate,
Right. Right.
area.
Right.
But there are those of us who can kind of see through that or feel through that other veil, like the other side.
Right.
Um, Now,
So maybe
me,
it's
I
too late
didn't
for
see
you
like
then.
any masses or anything else like that. Like, I
Right.
wasn't looking for
Right.
that. I
Right.
was only
So,
feeling what I was getting from, or
yeah. Yeah.
experiencing, and,
Yeah.
disembodied voices, as well as,
Right.
when the guys were at AA and there was nobody else around, and then, like
Yeah.
knocking three times, and there's like
Yeah.
two separate distinct three knocks that were coming from the basement and nobody was in there. I would go and try and investigate this to see, like, okay, where's this coming from? How can I, because it's an old house, there's gonna be
Yeah.
bumps, there's gonna be, things clinking and stuff like that. So, like, I would try to rationalize what I was hearing or seeing, or not seeing, but
Precisely.
you know what I
That's my
mean,
point. See, that's
feeling.
exactly what I'm saying. I would try to rationalize. Now, look at all of the things that come into that rationalization and examine where exactly do these come from,
Mhm.
right?
That's
They
what I
come
was
from
doing.
somebody else's assumptions and interpretations. So your assumptions and interpretations, you have a worldview that's already pre-established that is biasing your interpretations. See my
Well,
point?
it actually, I choose.
All right. Well, what I'm recommending is throw it all out, every single bit of it, and see, and then say, okay, let me assume whatever I'm perceiving is an interpretation and therefore is not accurate. And say, okay, that's what I'm seeing, but let's see if I can see it as something else. Right. And I have no idea what that else is, but I'm going to try and see it for its original format, not its interpreted format. See what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And see what happens. Now, they may have correspondingnesses. Who knows? It can go anywhere. That's my point. It's the openness that's the point. Otherwise, all you're going to do is end up perceiving the limited range of whatever psychic version of reality you've come into contact with, and that's pre-biased you to perceive things in that particular way. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Yeah, I see where you're
when
coming
you
from.
when you start to well, for instance, you could take some like Zen writings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the Zen guys are looking to perceive the universe directly, to be one with it, and all this stuff, right? And
Mm-hmm.
well, they don't know really what they're doing, but okay. So they end up, and they basically, what they do is they switch off the internal dialogue. When you switch off the internal dialogue and you get inner silence, you're switching off your interpretation mechanism. And this is it. We're always taking this energy and we're interpreting it. We're interpreting it, right? Everything we see, it's interpreted energy. But then when they do have these profound experiences, right, which they call, seeing the light, awakening, whatever, then they try and explain it and say what they've perceived. And they're always unable to. They say, it's like nothing because they're coming in without a predisposed bias, right? So, and this is okay. The Zen guys are one guy, but throughout literature and everything, you'll see many examples of this. Of course, when people take drugs, the same thing. They perceive fluid reality. Like they see, the wood, the grain move and stuff like this,
Oh
right?
yeah, like when you're doing acid and shrooms.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right. So again, you see, you're starting to get glimpses of energy directly, but people still sort of kind of have that interpretation. But when you're on drugs, psychedelics particularly, your interpretation mechanism is a lot looser, right? It's not as
Yes.
rigid. Right. So
Yes.
you
Because
see
you
what I'm
also
trying to
see,
say,
like,
though.
yeah, and like,
Go ahead.
so like from experience, like doing acid, like you can actually, like, and it's kind of weird, but you can see They're like little itty bitty dots. Like it's like a
Yeah,
almost like a fuzzy thing,
right,
but it's really not. Like it's just
right,
it's a different, I don't know, feels like a different,
right.
completely different
So
reality.
exactly. Well, and it is because it's the reality of directly perceiving energy. Yes. Now, and the key point that I want to make, many people will talk about perceiving energy directly. They might not use that language, but they'll call it all sorts of different things. The key that I'm adding to this is to understand that energy is intent.
Yes.
And when you start to look at your direct energy perceptions from the point of view of intent, now you're going to perceive in a very different thing. And you're going to understand that the intent is something that you can step beyond interpretation. And when
Hmm.
there's an intent, that intent can find an appropriate interpretation to satisfy the intent.
Yes.
See?
And you know, like
The
I knew
interpretation
nothing.
is separate to the intent.
Yes.
Yeah,
However,
yeah,
I knew nothing about this house when I first walked in there. Nobody
right,
told me anything about it. Nobody told me the
right,
history. Nobody told me any of that
right,
stuff.
right.
It's just
I
like a,
understand, but right, right. You don't have to know anything about the specifics to be influenced pre-existing. The very idea of haunted house is something that you've had in you for a long time. See, so
because it's
now
possible.
right. You see what I mean? So now it all feeds together. We have these pre-existing languages that can influence us tremendously. All right, so let's take it out of the realm of now perceiving the spirit, and let's put these pre-existing interpretations into things that you are more clear about, that you're now seeing. Look at how you perceive people and the world and your beliefs from when you were younger to now, right? You see what I mean? There was a way of interpreting the world, and those beliefs that aren't there anymore now change your world entirely. So I'm saying utilize this opportunity of perceiving the energy directly to say, let me be super overly the top cautious and take whatever I perceive, no matter how accurate it may be, and assume it is not, right? So you're doing it as an
So is
exercise, as
this
a
in a way
training
of like
exercise.
preserving my own energy, like my own like energy
Yes,
management? Okay,
yes,
now I see where you're going with this. I
yes.
was sitting here lost the
Well,
entire time almost.
it's
And
well,
like,
the exercise is one to train yourself to not interpret by default.
yes.
Yeah.
You know,
So
that as well as because by doing that, I'm also using energy management on myself.
absolutely,
So I'm
absolutely,
not
because it
draining that.
takes energy to interpret. Exactly, exactly. Yeah,
Okay. Makes a lot of
yeah.
sense.
Rather than simply observe and be aware. So in other words, we can take information out there, or I can look at clouds, right? And I say, oh, there's Mickey Mouse and whatever, right? What am I doing?
Yes.
You see what I mean? I'm putting things onto stuff that isn't there,
So
and
essentially
that's
putting
what
a
we
label on something.
correct, correct. We're describing, and this is what we do with the world at large around us. But when it comes to perceiving energy directly, because we don't know what it is, and it can be anything, we tend to treat it like clouds and we put stuff onto it, right? So,
Yes.
but there's some, if you can bypass that step and start to pay attention to the intent of things, you can access information that's otherwise not available,
Yes.
right? So super, super, super powerful, right? It's something to aspire to be able to perceive intent directly because you get to know stuff that you have no business knowing. It's very cool. Can short circuit things. You know, you can go directly to the heart of matters instead of having to go through all the steps and interpretations. Because in the world of energy, there's no time and space.
Yeah. It doesn't
Right?
exist.
So everything exists in a singularity, as it were, you know, and you just accessing it from different angles, which is why perspective shifting is so powerful. Once you develop this ability to perspective shift to multiple perspectives, when it comes to perceiving energy directly, wow, all right, you know, now it's all about perspective shifting, right? And you want to
Hmm.
have that ability because that same energy can be seen and perceived in a multitude of different ways. So this is a very powerful way. But a way to shortcut through that is to perceive intent directly. And, use this thing of perceiving intent when you're dealing with people, circumstances, situations, right? Ask yourself, what's the intent here? Very particular question. Not what's this person's intent, but what's the intent here of the situation. That will include the person's intent, but it will also include situational intent, which includes your intent and the intent of energies and forces in the universe and whatever, right? So it
Hmm.
keeps you open to third party intents that you have no idea of, right? And they do exist. So this is very powerful question. What's the intent here? Yeah,
Hmm.
very, very powerful. But this is something that's quite marvelous and exciting. Your ability to perceive energy directly. This is very, very valuable and magical. Very, very cool. Very, very cool.
Yes.
Yeah, very, very wonderful. Really
Um,
a boon. And it's something that is massively beneficial, but it needs to be trained and practiced. And it's a reverse training. Most training that we undergo in anything is to learn the particular descriptions of whatever the thing is, right? That's what training is, right? Understand it then. Now, in perceiving energy directly, you're training yourself to do the very opposite.
okay.
Not interpret, do not jump to conclusions based on pre-existing beliefs, because it's a nebulous thing. It's all beliefs, really. So now, doesn't mean that some of those don't have an accuracy. I mean, the residual energy intent from people left over unfinished business in their lives, whatever. This, and you may be on a spot where this holds that energy. Who knows, right? I
Well, the
mean,
whole
it's
house is made of brick.
right, but it may be something else entirely, may have nothing to do with any people. These may be nature spirits that are being perceived as residual energies of people. Why? Because, well, I've never known of nature spirits. It wasn't in my brain before, but you see what I mean? I'm just saying that
Yeah.
we can interpret because we don't have an alternative description, right? So
Yeah.
when we really look at this, how much am I describing based on pre-existing beliefs? This is now becomes an exercise, as a believing and feeling and believing exercise, right? To
Hmm.
absolutely check, what am I interpreting based on, as an assumption based on a belief that comes from somewhere. And that belief may be real to me, and I may see, but I'm seeing it this way, and I end up in a belief feeling loop. See, so
Hmm.
that's the key here, is to really examine. And it's a marvelous opportunity, because you can say, but how do I know these are spirits? All I'm going by is what somebody else believed it was, and it's influencing my beliefs. They appear as spirits to me, but that's the key, to say it doesn't matter that I'm seeing it this way for real. It's still an appearance. Now let me see if I can unhook that and go past that and see it for what it really is, right? So this is a very profound thing, right? And then look at the intent of whatever it is. And never mind that it may be this and that. What's the intent here, right? And so now, you, like, again, like I said, like something maybe, oh, the thing's trying to haunt me or whatever. No, it's just trying to bloody well communicate with you. It's just freaking
Yeah.
lonely.
And
Trying to
that's
hang out.
that's what I
You know.
was thinking, in that entire time. Like I wasn't scared at all being there. Um, but there's some, some energies that try to more actually every single one of them. They're trying to tell it's trying to tell its story. It's trying to tell to communicate, to speak, to say, hey, I'm here. To be acknowledged as an energy force, like, just, or source, not really force, but energy source, like, um, and that's something, that's why I never like felt scared.
Yeah.
Um, it was really kind of, at first it was unnerving because I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. And then, like, Sunday night when I left, that's when I was talking to
Right.
everybody. And
Right.
that's when I was like, you guys, stuff like that. But at the same time, we could also project our own energies into something, and it will um it can basically manifest itself into something entirely different. So I
Yes.
see where you're talking about with the intent too as well.
Right,
Um,
right. And the
because
interpretations, right?
yeah,
It's
in
just to say
interpretations.
what I see. Oh, I think this is somebody trying to get my attention or some spirit. Spirit, where did this idea come from, right? Uh, See what I mean? It's all interpretation. So to set that aside is quite difficult because you've got nothing in its place, and that's the key here: is to try and hold a nothing interpretation. It's very difficult to do because it goes against our all of our training to see something as a nothing, to not interpret. All of our whole life we've been taught to interpret, interpret, interpret. Right? So very, very powerful, very wonderful exercise. Very, very, very fun way for you to practice this because it will come in massively handy in your entire life because you've had a whole bunch of pre-existing beliefs and ideas which didn't serve you, and you are learning to unhook those and to get onto a new way of doing things that's not based on belief, that's based on self-evident sensibilities. That's a very different way of perceiving the world, right?
Hmm.
Very different way. Very different way. All right. Marvelous. Marvelous. Where are we? Did you get to a chance to do anything?
Like I said, I started to do my writing on stuff, and I fell asleep. So I have it partially done. I'm going to
That's
work on it more today,
no
and
worries.
as well
No
as this
worries.
week. But
No
I
worries.
will share. I do want to share with you what I have so far.
Okay, good.
Um, so I put over this past week, I have come to understand and put into appropriate action with so much. And then I did bullets as to what I did. Um,
Yes.
the difference between bullshit and reality and how skewed the reality can get from bullshit.
Yeah.
Awareness, discernment, and understanding on a larger scale. Energy management, time management, and mood management. Setting appropriate boundaries and sticking with them. How to use advertent awareness. Um, how to live deliberately, as well as how I feel isn't necessarily connected to how I think. I am in control of how I think, feel, um, and how I choose that is or how I choose that as a positive. The universe will present me a gift in situations I have not yet dealt with. My personal relationship with C and S and where I played my part. Putting into appropriate action of thinking things through to the end. And these ones um I just put down as we were talking. Um, one is perspective shifting, perceiving intent, and I am more than just enough.
Wonderful.
That one's I came up later
Wonderful.
on. Let me elaborate on some things I have learned. Let's
Yeah.
start with being able to distinguish the difference between bullshit and reality, and those are capitalized as well as italicized.
Nice.
In my line of work, I deal with people who are master manipulators. However, I have been able to gain their trust, and so when they try to bullshit me about something, I question them. They eventually tell me the truth.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
it's the truth because I know the rules of my workplace.
Yeah.
Addicts are master manipulators. I
Yeah.
also have been able to give them some insight on how I learned that the old of me was the biggest master manipulator when it comes to myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
bullshitted myself so many times when it comes to trying to justify my actions when I when in active addiction, as well as today when it comes to current events in my personal life. Popping out of this bubble hasn't been easy for me, simply because my inner bureaucrats were fighting me on some awful truths while I was working on acknowledging, accepting, and understanding what those so-called awful truth or that those so-called awful truths are awesome truths.
Yeah.
By bullshitting myself, I have distorted my reality. The things we tell ourselves are things that we're taught to us from the day arrive into the world. We learned that we cannot question, we must believe what social media, people, and media in general tells us. The
Yeah.
self-defeating thoughts, as well as thoughts that we choose to believe, which creates unnecessary beliefs and feelings. When being aware of reality of things, it is becoming more apparent that it isn't as hard as I once thought. The reality is so much more beautiful, vibrant, and feeling and freeing. It takes it takes so much energy unnecessarily to continue to be in the beliefs and feelings loop as well as believing bullshit.
Yes. Yes.
Let's see. Awareness, discernment, and understanding, and seeing how it is on a much larger scale. When this is my quote, when becoming aware of my thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, how BMNs love to have a false sense of power, as well as how my own ego has played a part in my determination to heal, understand, and give others the appropriate tools to improve their way of living through sharing, capital S sharing. I also have become discerning of each awareness of a particular situation in which I am able to set a stable foundation to keep the glass house of reality from imploding.
Yeah.
Once I have accomplished that, I can now apply understanding by being able to change my perspective and see it from all angles. Now, I call it the glass house of reality, and reason being
Yes.
is because when you can see through every single, all of from every angle, you can look up, you see things, see things, you look to the sides, you see things, you look down, front and back. There, you can actually see everything,
Yeah.
and you're still like, you're still within like your glass, your understanding, but you're also seeing all these different things, all these different perspectives.
Yeah.
Everything is different wherever you look. If
Yes.
you do a 360 view, and so that's why I chose to use um the phrase glass house of reality
Yeah. Yeah.
when
Wonderful.
working on myself and seeing what I need to improve on. I have endless possibilities. I have a whole new look on life and myself. I have become aware of the inner workings of the universe, myself, and others. I have been able to see things in color instead of black and white. I'm better able to see things with a 360 view. When putting into appropriate action awareness and discernment, I am able to understand the inner workings of the universe, world, and myself. Once I have achieved these three actions, I can see I am more deliberate when it comes to my words, how I feel, and what I choose to accept as reality. After all, there's nothing to forgive when you have come to an understanding. That's what I have so far.
Wonderful, 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 wonderful. That's very powerful because that's the basis and the start of what we're trying to accomplish is to come to understanding. It's the ability to perceive beyond interpretation, to perceive beyond belief, right? To unhook
Yes.
from. Very, very powerful. Very, very powerful. Our beliefs can have a real strong hold on us, you know.
Yes. Well, and that's the thing too, is like I'm learning to put into practice more and more of the things that I'm learning. The biggest one for me right now is the biggest, I guess, four right now for me is, well, more than that, but it's acknowledgement, acceptance, awareness. No, awareness, acknowledgement, acceptance, discernment, understanding, as well as deliberate, living with deliberateness. In other words, doing things with a purpose, doing things with um a way of like thinking it through and doing it like on purpose for a benefit um of not just like others, but others, or myself and others. And so even when I was sharing with, the residents about things that I have learned on my end and things that I, from what I've been through my experiences. Um, one of my residents, he's a grumpy old man, was always, usually pretty, don't really, He's one of those people. But um I had a very deep discussion with them about, you know, you are important in your world. Like you
Yeah,
spend so much of your time caring for others, but where did you in the past think about it? Where did you in the past have take any time to take care of you?
yeah.
You put others before you.
What do you
And
say?
he thought about it. He really thought about it. And the next morning, he woke up and he had the best, like biggest smile. I've never seen this guy ever
Oh,
in a even a good mood when he woke up. And he looks at me, he goes, I am a very important person in my life.
yes,
I am the man in my life.
that's right.
And I'm like, he goes, and you know, I'd have to say that, because I also shared with him about choosing energy as well as, choosing what, you know, you accept. And he goes, I would have to say that everybody is um I can't remember the exact word, but essentially everybody is blessed to have me in their life, to have known
Yeah,
me. And I'm like, yes, I said, however, be careful with that. I don't want you to turn that into arrogance, you
yeah,
know? And I said, so, yes, we are blessed to know you. We are, it is very awesome to be able to know you, the real you. You know what I mean? Like you as a person.
yeah,
Um, and he goes, I don't want to, I said, you don't need to label yourself. Guess what? I said, you are you. You're not the addict. You're the addict in recovery. You're not a drunk. You're not you know what I mean? Those are
yeah,
all labels. You are
yeah,
you. And that is how when you introduce yourself to people, you are you.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
you're not an addict or anything else like that at this point. You are just you. And so all the guys, like, they were talking about it too at breakfast, and they all agreed that yep, this is me, like. And I also, would bring up some of the stuff that they would tell me about some of the stuff they actually were able to do for themselves while in recovery. And I'm like, see, this is you taking care of you. This is you taking care of you first right now,
yeah,
because that's
yeah,
important.
yeah, yeah.
And
And understanding the relationship that you have with yourself now.
mhm, that
Yeah,
relationship as an addict, that relationship you have with yourself, it gets lost in the mix because
yeah,
you're so worried because yes, over time the drugs change our perception. They help, they influence the change of our perception, and they do skew a lot of things because
yeah.
we're not in our right mind. Um and
Why?
before that, though, there's things that led up to that. Letting people walk all over you, being there for people pleasing, things like that. Like it really takes a lot out. And so you have no energy left over for yourself, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
And that's some things I learned through the program. Like those are things that, like, I've come to accept that I am I don't have to be the main character in anybody else's life. I'm the main character in my own life,
yeah, yeah,
you know.
yeah. Beliefs, beliefs. So as you work with the addicts and they come and they tell you all their stories and whatever, right? Listen to their beliefs,
Mm,
right? I mean, if you have just ask one question, just ask very gently, what's that based on, right? I mean, ask like you really want to know, and then and then eventually they'll spin themselves out because they'll realize it's based on a belief, right?
I even
Now, when
shared
it
with
goes
them the concept of square circle.
exactly, exactly, and that's very hard to see sometimes because now you say you try and justify it and you realize, well, it can't. The thing can't self-contradictory, and then it implodes, right? So awareness becomes self-curative in cases like that. but you don't have to point it out to them, and you don't really want to either, because they need
Mm-mm.
to come to it by themselves, right? So this
Yes.
is the hardest part of your job, is not to share a truth and say, here it is, right? They got to kind of get to it by themselves. So you got to kind of just be there, and you just assisting through your presence, through your attention, through your asking. Uh,
Oh yeah.
but that, really, most of the time, all you got to do is just listen and keep listening. And then also another super powerful question is, and then what, right? When somebody comes and tells you a story, let's assume it's a legitimate story, right? This is what's going on, and the problem with a boyfriend, whatever, right? And then what? Just get, and you'll get, a lot of times you're like, and they're like, what do you mean? And you can see them thinking, well, that was the end of the story. But now you're asking as if there's more to the story. And the moment they think, they say, like, they want to say, no, but that's that, and then they realize, oh no, there is some more, and then they carry on. It's astonishing. It's astonishing how they like think it's over, and then you say, and then what? And they're like, oh, and then there's more, and then there's more and more and more, and there's so much more usually. and
Oh
and
yeah.
then you start to get to the real crap, because inevitably when people come and they got stuff that needs to be worked out, the first story is the story they want to hear and want to tell themselves, and also the story they think they should be saying, right?
Yes.
Then they start to get to the uncomfortable stuff, and they skirt around it, and it takes a while, and then we start to get to the real stuff, and then you get to the stuff that you didn't even think about, right? The new stuff. I know. So there are many stories, and it takes a while to get to them, but they like, you have to go past down, circle down in the layers, as it were, right? So it's very powerful, very, very powerful, very,
They
very.
really because and I did ask a lot of questions. I did ask, um, you know, what is your belief about yourself? Like what do you believe about who you are? You know? And I let them think, and I even had them write it down for
Yeah, make
themselves.
space, and make space for their thinking. Yes,
Yes,
and
yes.
write it down. Yes, yes.
Yep. And so I give them that time, and they thought about it and they wrote it down, and then I would ask questions based upon like what they shared,
Yeah,
like, and get them to really really think about,
yeah,
well, was it counterproductive or was it productive? You know what I mean? Like, um and that's the thing too, is like, I also shared with them the difference between a war story and a horror story, like a horror story. Like,
yeah,
what's the difference when it comes to addiction? And reason being is because the war stories is essentially glorifying your using days, the things you used to do. A
yeah,
horror story
yeah,
are the things about throughout your addiction in your past that
yeah,
you
yeah,
no longer are proud of, you no longer want to go back to,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know? And so, like, I would ask them first, I asked them first, what's the difference between a war story and a horror story? I want to know what your thoughts about that. What do you think it is? And stuff like that. And so I would, and that's the thing that, and I did ask them a lot, like, a couple of them, like, but where did that get you?
yeah,
You know?
yeah, yeah,
Um, they had a lot, they even did, they did a lot of thinking, a lot of, I also shared with him, bullshitting ourselves, things like that, or myself, how I bullshitted myself and how I justified myself when it came to the square. They spent a long time trying to figure out how to do a square circle.
yeah, yeah.
Like
Right.
they really did. It was very interesting to see, because I'm like, yep, I did that too. I'm like sitting here,
Right.
I
So
thought about it forever.
yes, yes. Now the real key point about the square circle story is not that they were they were trying to draw the square circle necessarily. Yes, that's an important part. But the fact that they got stressed because they were unable to.
Yep.
So this is the profound thing, right? that we can go through life believing in a square circle, and we're trying to implement that. And we're trying to understand why in the fuck we're struggling.
Mm-hmm.
And we're getting upset because, well, it's not happening. Well, you're trying to make the impossible happen, and now you're getting stressed. It's like, hello,
Yep.
that's the point, is the getting stressed at something that cannot be done, right? So this
Yes.
is, and we see this all the time in life, where people have these square circle beliefs and they get all bent out of shape because the thing isn't happening the way they think it should. And that's the problem, right? So
Yeah.
many of these things is, it's the action that you take based on your square circle belief. And it's
Yes.
profound that, you insisting on this thing and you're getting stressed because of your insistence. It's
Yep.
a very big deal. I want to
And
show you something real quick here.
mhm.
Just where we're heading, where we're going. I want to do this with you at some point. Now, where did my screen share go? There we go. All right, so this is the hearing and helping course that I have. It's a program rather than a course, because it's a big thing. Just this module here. It's, I don't know. I had to split it into two because it's just long. It's huge. It's a lot, and so is this one, right? It was very big deals. So
Mhm.
anyway, it's capital H, hearing and helping, right? And just to give you an idea. This is helping others help themselves through capital H, hearing, and yourself, right?
Mhm.
Actually, for real, helping others without knowing much at all, right? How to be a choice facilitator without having content or wisdom. So you can think of this as wisdomless coaching, right? You're
Mhm.
not giving anybody any advice, right?
No.
How to do that,
I
right? This is a
actually I
skill.
made sure that I was steering away from advice.
And not telling anything, not implying, so a lot of
Yeah.
skills involved, right? So listening to mourn is so deep, immersed in joy to keep. Realness we strive to find, transcending limits of mind. That's what we were talking about earlier, right?
Hmm.
Just a little quote to get things. And here's the key of this: the client is always us.
Yes.
You're always listening to yourself. Always.
Mhm.
Always. Very powerful. Very, very powerful. In some way, shape, or form, always, because everything is, in the end, when it comes down to it, all is one is all, and all that stuff, right? So wherever we're listening, we're always listening to ourselves. And the more you understand others, the more you understand yourself, and vice versa. You want to understand others, understand yourself. Hearing is attunement. Attunement is hearing the universe. Why is there a double space there?
I like that.
It's not a double space. Interesting. See, it looks like a double space, but
It
it's
does
not.
look like a double space.
No.
Where's the spacing on that? On the words?
It's all the same. You see, these
Okay.
are also pretty big. Just for whatever reason, I guess the A, because it leans like that, makes in
Yeah.
italics makes it look bigger. So hearing is attunement. Attunement is hearing the universe. So capital H, hearing, is attunement. And attunement. It's a very, very, very huge quote. This is just the introduction, and it's got like all these really like overview points, right? So
Hmm.
enabling the client and specific doing techniques and practices, right? So just, it's got the three uh, major modules, um, but they have a lot in them. Each one breaks down, and then each one breaks down. So anyway,
Oh,
what's that?
a really cool thing because I asked, one of the clients because he went upstairs, we're the residents. We went upstairs, not client. Um,
Yeah.
and I'm like, hey, what are you doing up there? And he goes, looking for love in all the wrong places. So I was
Mm.
like, hey, come down here. I want you to come down here. So I brought him in front of a mirror and I said, look, take a look at yourself. And he's like, okay, I'm looking at myself. What about? I said, think about it. You told me you were looking for love in all the wrong places.
yeah.
So what do you see right now? And it really like clicked when he started to smile. He goes, myself. And I said, so what did you find? He goes, love. I'm like, exactly.
There you go.
Like it was really kind of like I love it when when I see the light come on because
Yeah,
that is what I get the most out of like doing this with for people is the light that comes on. There is no other feeling, like greater feeling than seeing that. Like I don't do it for like I do it for my benefit as well, but it's also for theirs too.
absolutely,
You know what I mean? Like
absolutely. If you're not doing it for your benefit, then you aren't practicing what you're preaching there.
exactly. And I'm just like,
Totally for your benefit. The client is always us.
mhm. Oh yeah, and I learned so much even as I'm going, I learned just as much from, uh giving them, or helping, I guess not helping. I don't like the word helping. Now I don't like that word helping because it's just counterproductive. Um
Yeah,
Giving them the tools and assisting with that,
yeah,
but at the same time I'm learning also too, about, myself and things like, oh yeah, I didn't think about it that way at first, and the more I practice it, the more I end up learning.
exactly, exactly. And the more we hear, the more we
Yes.
tap into yeah, right, right. So this is kind of cool. And again, we'll do this, and then we'll go through all this stuff at some point, But I want to
Mhm.
do way of impeccability first, because this is,
Yeah.
it's all rested on that and based on that.
I really,
So,
really want to learn, yeah, the way of impeccability. That one is,
right, so
um,
yeah, go ahead.
it just seems, for me, it seems really important. It'll
Yeah,
help put
oh yeah, oh yeah,
everything else that I'm learning
oh yeah,
together too, as well. Um, and when it comes to, okay, so when it's come to, anxiety and worry for me, I'm learning, I've been able to put into practice as well. Um, not allowing my beliefs and feelings towards certain things that I find affect my life, my daily life, and just
yeah,
trusting the process with it, and that there is it's leading me to something, and I just need to allow it to happen. Here's the
yeah,
thing, I do also still struggle with, that negative aspect of my ego.
yeah,
um
yeah,
and so I'm working on that as well.
yeah,
That's what I'm currently doing as well. And there's so much with that. So
yeah, yeah. All right. So just, basics. This is the core, the root of everything, right? So way of
mhm.
impeccability. Tools for deliberate living. I'll put that in that tab. That's the key. That's the key to it, right? Tools for deliberate living. Right.
Yes.
That's what we want. We want to learn to live deliberately. And that's the thing too, when you look at all those people you're dealing with, right? How much are they living deliberately? They're not. They're
No.
living according to idea and belief. Yes.
Yes.
Screwed up ideas and beliefs, but that's it. That's the problem, right? See? So they're not living deliberately though. Yes.
No, they're not. They're living in definitely a
All right.
they're
So,
free floating.
right. So this is just, the curriculum as we're going to go through it. So we'll start module one, intent and appropriateness. Right. That's it. Right. That's all what's coming. So here we go. Right. First one, clarity of intent and focus of purpose. This module one, session one, as is its name. Clarity of intent and focus of purpose, right? We want to have clarity of intent. If we know what it is we're doing, life is very simple. It's very easy to be deliberate. So clarity of intent leads to focus of purpose. Okay. The one creates the other, right? All
Hmm.
right. So now we got to go through this here. All right. Hold on 1 second. I want to do this with you. Okay, so let me go. Let me get that screen share real quick. So this is a very important exercise. This first one, we've done it before, and but we're going to do it again in roundabout ways. All right, so
Yeah.
got it. Music. Hold on. I'm just setting it up so that I can share my sound with you.
Okay.
So I'm going to this. You know, all of these have audio with them.
Yes.
Right? So when you do it on your own, you don't have to use the audio. You can if you're not. You can turn it off. So
I like to use the audio.
yeah.
Clarity of intent and focus and
So
purpose. Module 1, Session 1.
I just want to check that you hear the audio.
Yep, I heard it.
Okay. Okay. Oh,
You must
well,
feel
that
everything,
jumped itself
otherwise
here
the
now.
world
What are you doing?
loses its
Why are you going
sense.
all the way here?
The way of impeccability.
Oh, all right, too far.
Aid
All right.
clarity of
So,
intent and focus and purpose.
it's the next
Module
slide
1,
that I
Session
want
1.
to do. I'm not hearing the audio.
Hmm.
Oh, I don't want. All right. Yeah, well, no, it depends on how I have things set up this way. I have to bring Zoom to the front on the phone. Otherwise, I hear it on the computer, but the volume on the computer is very low. Okay. Okay. All right. So here we go. All right. So you gotta do this with.
Which of these resonate or apply to you? Say yes out loud. You are a good person. You have
Yes.
integrity.
Yes.
You care about
Yes.
others. You have
Yes.
generosity,
Yes.
kindness, compassion. You are
Yes.
typically
Yes.
sensible. You think patience,
Yes.
impeccability, sobriety, diligence, awareness, appropriateness, etc. are good qualities. You like having
Oh,
meaning,
yes.
purpose, and significance. Affection,
Yes.
love, goodness are important to you. You
Yes.
cannot be
Yes.
deliberately bad. You cannot be
Yes.
Yes.
deliberately inappropriate. You
Yes.
want more in life.
Capital yes.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So these are very, 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 very important. Very, very critical. Very
They
critical.
are.
Now, likely you said yes to all of these, and that makes you a good person, without question. Regardless of how you may be feeling right now, know that by answering yes, you are clearly a good person. That's your base, a good person. We are going to connect that goodness to what is meaningful, provides you with purpose, and to what is significant and important to you.
Say out loud right now.
I am a good person.
Yes. Yeah, that sounded like you meant it. Very good. Mostly I have to get people to say it like 6 times before
You
they
did. You
sounds
did
like
it
they,
first. When we
yeah.
first started this, you did it first, but I'm seeing it more and more that I am a good person. So,
So I'm just going to go out of the audio. We'll just read it ourselves, right?
Okay.
So interesting. On some of these slides, like you saw there was more audio than what's written on the slide.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not always the same, right?
Yes.
All right. So we'll be looking at the way of impeccability with awareness, discernment, and understanding for the purposes of application. Because without application, it's all meaningless, right? So this is something you're going to hear over and over and over again. Right? I don't want to lose this connection because we emphasize awareness, discernment, and understanding, but they are for the purposes of application, right?
Yes.
The key. That's otherwise, all right. So what? You understand? Yes. So what? If you don't use it, you don't apply it, it's meaningless, right? And you see
Yes.
that all the time with the trillions of memes, as we've mentioned before. Right? People have this big epiphany. It's like, oh my God, I'm so wise and smart. And yeah, how does your life change? It doesn't. Nothing happens, right? So this is very key. If we don't apply the stuff, we're wasting our time, right? So this is very, very cool. By the way, on the work, do you have a schedule now? I mean, I'm hoping they aren't going to have you be working 14-hour shifts on a regular basis. Yeah.
No, 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 no. That was a one-time thing, and that was because the previous resident had assaulted one of the female staff members, and it essentially traumatized her. So she needed just a weekend off to get herself regain herself.
Okay. So
So
you are working in person, you're not doing phone counseling. You're working in person with
yeah,
Oh,
I
wow.
work in person with them. And yeah, I work directly at the treatment center. And
Wow.
I work
Wow.
Saturday and Sunday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Okay. All right. Okay, cool. All right. Brilliant. All right. Good
Yeah.
deal. Okay. Okay.
I
Just
made
wanted to
sure
make
that they knew that, and that was because I told them like I've training personally, like with things that I'm working on, and
Okay.
during the week, and I can't go do
Yeah.
work on weekend week.
Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. Wonderful. When we start on the Capital H hearing program, what we're doing now is the core of everything. And
Yes.
then we can go into that. When we start doing that training, I'll bet you anything, when we finish that and you share with them, I don't know how well you get on with them there, but if you share with them while you're doing it, and you start to say, they're going to probably want to send the other, what do they call you there? Counselor? What?
We're techs.
Techs?
Yep, we're technicians.
Okay. I thought you said, when you said weird tech, I thought it sounded like vortex. So.
Oh no, sorry, we are techs.
Right. Okay. Text. Okay. I'll bet you anything they'll want to send the other text to me for training.
Oh yeah.
Because it's really powerful training. It's super, you're gonna see how powerful it is. So I mean, it's just really cool. Anyway, so the key though is, right, that you see why this one single sentence, it's the core of what it is that we're doing. So our clarity of intent here already is starting to apply. That yes, we are going to learn awareness, discernment, and understanding. And of course, impeccability and a way of impeccability. It's all for this purpose of application, right? So there's nothing intellectual about this. And so
No.
this one single point is completely transformative to almost any other learning that you do. Yes.
Oh yeah.
I mean, all of it, it's just theoretical, it's idea, and unless you have on the job training, but that's training, which is a very different thing. So really what we are doing is training. Yes.
Yes.
Train ourselves, but it's a different kind of a training, because it's psychological training, but you still need to go and apply it. We think psychological stuff and emotional stuff and all this. And no, you still need to go and practice and apply, right? Just
That's why I refer it to as training, because I'm also retraining myself. So
Exactly.
yeah, that's why I always refer to it as training, because that
Exactly.
is the appropriate term for it.
Exactly. It is training. Absolutely. We need to be clear as to what we're going to be doing here in this life change program, which is to gain perspective for the purposes of making what we encounter usable and thus valuable. We're going to fully connect to the depths of what's presented to us and beyond, right? So again, this word, what we encounter, this is in life in general, in every single thing that happens, right? Everything, right? What we encounter, right? To what's presented to us and beyond. Why beyond? Because to connect to that fullness, we're going to explore our terminology in detail, so we're absolutely, thoroughly, and fully aware of just what exactly the power terms we use mean. Power conceptions such as impeccability, which are integral to our task and typically only understood indirectly. We'll be remedying this with all the terms and adding many more. We'll be building a dictionary of power. You'll be building your own dictionary of power, right? So this is a very big point, as you'll see in the next slide here. We'll build a dictionary of power. You'll build your own dictionary of power. We'll build dictionaries of power together, right? So this is a very, very big point. Very big point. Yeah, very big point. All right. The dictionary of power, very key, very integral to what we're doing. You. 'You must feel everything, otherwise the world loses its sense. Yeah. 'You must feel everything, otherwise the world loses its sense. 'You must feel everything, otherwise the world loses its sense. 'You must feel everything, otherwise the world loses its sense. 'You must feel everything, otherwise the world loses its sense. 'You must feel everything, otherwise the world loses its sense. 'You must feel everything, otherwise the world loses its sense. 'You must feel everything, otherwise the world loses its sense. 'You must feel everything, otherwise the world loses its sense. 'You must feel everything, otherwise the world loses its sense. 'You must feel everything, otherwise the world loses its sense. 'You must feel everything, otherwise the world loses its sense. 'You must feel everything, otherwise the world loses its sense. 'You must feel everything, otherwise the world loses its sense. 'You must feel everything, ot But we have to learn to feel first. Yes.
Yes.
So in order to feel, we have to learn to unbelieve. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. We'll get to all of that later. We'll be getting into the material with the intent of knowing it. And through that intense and thorough knowing, we'll feel it all and then come to live it. Now, I suspect that when I originally put this up here, that, well, let's see.
We'll be getting into the material with the intent of knowing it. And through that intense and thorough knowing, we'll feel it all and thus come to live it.
Oh, I don't know which ones have more to them and not. I think I actually added the more text to it, except I guess in that first slide there.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're most absolutely going to apply it all in the Zoom sessions and, of course, in our daily lives. In this context, we, as spirit warriors, are going to undertake a profound battle, the battle with our great enemy, habit. We're going to fight feeling we need to do what we know to be folly, yet do it anyway. Let me repeat that sentence. We're going to fight feeling we need to do what we know to be folly, yet do anyway. Think of your residents. That's what you call them, right?
Yeah. We call them residents.
Right. So next time, or think of all the things you've gone through, right? And keep paying attention to this. Pay attention to how much they do, which they know to be stupid, but do anyway.
Yep. I have. Oh my goodness. So I caught
Yeah.
one of the residents with a phone and they're not supposed to have one.
Right, right. But I don't mean it, okay, that's breaking the rules. I don't mean it in that way. I mean like square circle stuff, right?
Okay.
Which
Yeah.
they know is kind of stupid, but they do it anyway. So I don't mean like breaking the rules stuff. That's usually got some sense to it, right? Like, okay, the phone, well, there's some logic to that, right? But I
Yeah.
mean stuff that is just folly, foolishness, and they do it anyway, right? Why do they do stuff they know to be stupid, right? Because of habit, in other words. Yes.
Okay. Yep. Makes
See?
a lot of sense.
Habits, the habit of inappropriate belief, the habit of inappropriate feeling caused by inappropriate belief, and vice versa,
Okay.
right? See,
Yep.
so that's what I'm trying to say. Where you stuck in those square circles, those square circle feeling belief loops, right? And you doing stuff that, well, you kind of know to be stupid. All right, for instance, well, people know it's stupid to go out with, to go on a date with the bad boy or whatever, right? The same type of person they've gone out on a date with before, and they do it again, right?
Yeah.
And then I said, man, I always fall for these guys, right? You've heard, how many times haven't you heard them say that, right? Or these
Yep.
women, right? Oh man, I'm always falling for these women or falling for these guys. Well, if you
Yep.
know it's stupid, why do you keep on doing it?
Yeah, well, yeah, and that was something that I had a discussion about one of the residents because he's like, I always end up falling for the crazy ones, and you know, and
Exactly,
I'm
exactly,
like, well,
exactly. Exactly. All right. So yeah, we have, and that's because of habit, right?
yep,
So and habit comes
and
in many
beliefs.
ways. In other words, habit is our great enemy. Why? Because habit is a pattern and energy and intent that is set up to deliberately have us be unaware,
Yep.
right? So habit is an unawareness intent. Yes.
Yes.
And also it's a pattern intent, which is even
Yes.
worse. It's not just a one-time thing. A habit is a pattern. So a habit is an intent for a pattern of unawareness.
Mm-hmm.
How horrible is that?
Very.
Exactly. Exactly. Right. So we're thus in a fight to change how we feel on a constant and continuous basis, a fight to be able to feel the conceptions of power. This will become our battle as warriors, to battle the habits we have accumulated and which keep us from living fully and freely, which keep us from living with applied positive sobriety, the sobriety of an impeccable warrior, right? And in your business right there, sobriety has a double meaning.
Yes, it has a double meaning for sure.
So in order to be sober in the substance context, you need sobriety. You need to be sober in the philosophical, psychological context, right? And
Yes,
it's
you do.
why that word is used. Most people today only understand sobriety as abstinence, not the same thing at all.
That's
Right?
being clean.
But right, exactly. But so to be clean though, you need to have sobriety of psychology, sobriety of mood, sobriety of habit, right? And
Yes.
sobriety is a super sensibility. We'll get into this term sobriety. So if you haven't already, please add sobriety to your dictionary of power right now. Right?
Yes, and here's the thing is like when it comes to sobriety, and okay, so the difference between for me, the difference between being clean and being sober, there's a huge difference between those. Reason being is because you can be clean off of drugs. That could be completely or off of substance. That could be out of your system. You're clean from it. You're abstaining from it, right? But the sobriety part is the mental part, the mentality,
Precisely.
the habits, the beliefs.
Precisely.
And that's why I always,
Right.
I always say there's a huge difference between sobriety and being clean.
Right. I mean, the things that people are addicted to aren't the physical stuff only. They're addicted
No.
to neediness. They're addicted to attention. They're addicted to approval. They're addicted to self-pity, right? All sorts of things. So you may be clean off the drugs, but have you really dealt with the issue that is putting you on the drugs in the first place, which is your neediness, your desperation, your desire for approval, your lack of self-confidence, your lack of self-belief, your lack of self-love, all of this shit, right? That's what sobriety is
Exactly.
to be basically have your shit together. Yes, it's another word for sobriety, right? So people who got their shit together, they have sobriety. Yes.
Yes.
Right. So this sobriety is a most potent conception of power, right? Very, 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 very important.
And that's why I don't always say like clean and sober. I say clean is just because there are still things I'm working on. You know what I mean? And so I can't say full on sobriety because
Correct.
I'm still I'm work in progress right now.
Sobriety is a lifelong challenge.
Yes.
Fine. All right. So this is it. And we want to learn to feel. We want to feel impeccable, and we want to feel sobriety. Yes. And we want to feel the liberation, and this is the key. We want to get to that point where we can feel these things, because if you feel determined, it's a very big difference to just saying, well, I'm determined. If you don't feel that determination, nothing happens. Got to feel some.
You have to feel determined. You have to feel empowered. You have to feel, because otherwise you don't get anywhere with it. What's the point?
Exactly. So yes, I love this the art here is I don't know.
It's absolutely, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's like
Whoever
out there
did it
in the world, in the walls and the subways and stuff. All right. We thus have to be fully aware of what exactly it is we're about and what we'll be doing. We're all here for the purpose of application, and as such, we'll all apply according to what's appropriate for us as individuals. There's no expected pace. It'll be what it'll be. All right, so you got two more terms to add to your dictionary of power, right? Application and appropriateness, right?
Yes.
Right. And you can also you've already got awareness, discernment, and understanding in there, I would assume. Yes.
Yes, and I keep adding more and more to to it just because like I'm learning more and more.
Always. The dictionary of power is a living thing. And it's your dictionary of power, and you've got to flesh it out. You've got to feed it and water it and nourish it with doing those extended understandings, right? So same thing with application. Application is going to take on many points to it, and same thing with appropriateness, right?
Yes.
We'll understand what appropriateness is as we go along. Right? It's very cool. Right? A lot of A terms. All right. will be connecting to all the value from the application. And value, see, I capitalize value and usefulness, because
Yes.
these are, they're like kind of duh terms, and they are totally, absolutely duh. But they're there for that emphasis that everything we do, we always looking for the value and the usefulness. Right?
Yes.
This is our application. Otherwise, you're wasting your time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Will be connecting to all the value from the application will apply as spirit warrior. So there's another term to put in your dictionary power, spirit warrior. Yes. Now, we'll get into this conception. It's a self-conception. You don't have to adopt it. It's not, you know, of course, nothing in the program could possibly be mandatory, right? But this idea of a spirit warrior, we'll get to it when we do, it's in, let's see, module 3, session 1, self-conception. And you're going to go through that, and you're going to work out your own particular self-conception, because not everybody, you know, spirit warrior didn't resonate and gel with everybody. They have all sorts of, you'll see. So just use it as something that we use it for the purpose of convenience, right? Because, well, it's just how we came at it, right? So
It's
just
a
be aware that.
self-empowerment as well, you
Say
know.
again?
It's also a sense of self-empowerment for
Correct,
yourself,
correct,
not above anybody else, but
correct,
something that
correct,
you
correct,
can
correct,
resonate with.
correct. Right, but I'm just saying that spirit warrior, we'll talk about, we'll apply as spirit warriors, you know. So in other words, I'm talking about us as spirit warriors, you know. But you don't have to use this term for yourself. Later on, you'll come to develop your own self-conceptions. You may or may not adopt spirit warrior. Some do, like sure, she uses spirit warrior, and she has others too, and there's a whole bunch of them that we can use. So, and you're going to make your own, is my point. All I'm just saying is, you know, I mention this now because some people are but put off by it and they don't resonate with it. Don't worry about it. It's just something I use for convenience. I have to pick something to say, you know, us as participants. All right, but
Yeah, I know,
participants,
I love it. I think it's
right?
awesome.
So yeah. So that's all. I'm just saying. All right.
Yep.
Our purpose is to utterly maximize what we are and what we do. Holy crap. So you see, I haven't been through this for a while now, right? Well, I mean, a while, I don't know, it's not all that long, but my point is, to me, it's a long time because I've done a lot of stuff in between. So, you know, when you live by the minute, a day is a long time, and a week is a very long time, and a year is an age. So,
Yep.
but look at that sentence, right? Our purpose is to utterly maximize what we are and what we do. But one just, it's like a little sentence just thrown in there, like, but man, that's really profound, is it not?
It is very profound.
How often do you say, oh, I'm going to maximize what I am and what I do? Holy crap. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I only hear it from myself. I don't hear it from other people often.
It's not out there in the world, right?
No, it's not.
All right. We are thus about doing everything we possibly can without any magical aspects in our lives. Another profound thing, right? Because you see most, at least in the sort of coaching world, um, that they get into some kind of woo-woo magic, and this is how you're going to become something special, right? Because that's what they're doing. They're feeding the people's egos, and because people don't believe they can be more without magic in their lives.
Oh yeah, you can be.
Exactly. But for the most
They
part,
don't
people
see
don't
it.
want to
Yeah.
believe it. Correct. I mean, look at your residents. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they don't believe they can be more. They
No,
don't believe they have moreness in them already. Yes.
exactly.
Yeah. Right. They don't believe it. Doesn't mean this is true. We are being utterly real, as that's all we can do in the meantime. We are taking the stance that such powers of potential possibility may or may not come. This is very important, right? To understand that you need to have your basics in place before you acquire such powers. Otherwise, those powers are going to annihilate you, if such powers do exist, right?
Yes.
That's the other point. People learn all these abilities and skills and perceptions, and they just get themselves into trouble because they don't have the basic fundamentals to deal with what they perceive. Yeah, they get
Yes.
overwhelmed, and then they get freaked out, and probably a lot of the people who are in recovery or addicts or people who do, like you, perceive energy directly, and it freaked them out and fucked them up.
Yep.
Couldn't deal with it, right?
Exactly.
So we are saying, no, before you start to deal with that shit, first learn how to deal in this basic real world here and have your shit together. Then you can start venturing out into other shit, right? Don't get ahead of yourself, in other words. If you don't have your fundamentals, you're wasting your time, right?
Yep.
Absolutely wasting your time. So
and you also be the demise of yourself.
Say again?
You'll be the demise of yourself.
Correct. Exactly. We're going to structure ourselves with the utmost strategy to make sure we're set to get the most out of life, whether or not those factors come to be or not. So strategy, please add it to your dictionary of power. We are really going to be paying attention to strategy, right? Without strategy, you're a sitting duck.
Yep.
Right? This is it. Strategy is leverage, right? So to give an example here, go a little bit sideways on strategy. So, all right. So let's say, my facility and your facility, we're going to, we do after, extracurricular sports, and we're going to have a, friendly match. And all right, let's say we have wrestling. All right. So I say to you, I'll beat you every time. Right.
Yeah. Sorry, the first word that came into my head was bet.
Right. So my team is going to beat your team every time. And you say, well, how's that going to happen? How can you guarantee this? I say, well, because you're going to do the selecting, right? And I'm going to choose the matchups. So I'm going to do the selecting. In other words, you get to pick first. Yeah. Right. Okay.
Oh,
So, wow.
But that's not fair.
Well, no, it's very fair. I mean, well, if don't you get like okay, so we've got a pool of 6 players, 6 wrestlers, right? And you get to pick the first guy, and I get to pick second. Isn't that an advantage to you to pick first?
No, it's not, because if you pick second, you can match up somebody that could potentially have better
Yeah, but
skills.
that's 2 separate things. You combining the 2 together. So first is selecting the teams. Okay, so you want to go second.
Oh, I select who I want. Okay, I get what you're saying now.
So you get to the first choice of selecting your teammate, right? So we're gonna make from the we've got a pool of 6 players, and you get to choose first. I choose second. You choose third, 4, 5, 6, right? So in other words,
oh, so like you do in elementary school when you're selecting teams
right,
for like a game or something. Okay.
Exactly. So that's it. We're going to make these 2 teams, and I'm always going to win, because why? Because you pick the teams, but I choose the matchups.
Okay.
Right. So you end up with a stronger team, don't you? You end up with the strongest wrestler, and with the third strongest wrestler and the 5th strongest wrestler, correct?
Yes.
Right. And I end up with the number 2, the number 4, and the number 6.
Yep.
How do I win every time if I got the weaker team? Every time I got the weaker team, but I always win.
Strategy with them.
Exactly. How? Very simple strategy.
By essentially, I mean, in that aspect, it would be finding, you learn the key points, either whether it be weaknesses or strengths in that other person.
Right. So remember my criteria. I said, right, I will win every time. Okay. And as long as you get to choose the teams and I get to choose the matchups. So very simple.
But you use the strongest, but not necessarily that you, just because they're the strongest, does not mean that, there doesn't have to be a strategy, but you automatically think.
Right. Hold a second here. You're making it more complicated here, right? So it's much simpler than that. So when we come to matchups, right, we got a team, and my team against your team, and obviously there's gonna be 6 matches, and it's 2 out of 3, best out of whoever wins, 2 out of 3 wins the tournament, correct?
Yeah.
All right. So when it comes to the matchups, I decide the matchups. So I say, fine, I put your number 1 against my number 6, and I put your number 3 against my number 2, and your number 5 against my number 4. See?
Okay.
Instead of what most people will do, they'll put 1 against 2, 2 against 3, and 4 against 5, and so on, right? They'll put 1 against 2, 3 against 4, 5 against 6. But I'm switching it up. I'm putting 1 against 6, which is a total blowout, correct?
Mm-hmm.
But then I put my number 2 against your number 3, and my number 4 against your number 5. So I win 2 out of the 3 matches every time.
Okay.
See, very simple strategy, right?
Yep,
There's
that
nothing to do
makes
with
sense now.
maximizing my players or whatever. The reason being is it's the format of the tournament that counts. It's best 2 out of 3 matches. It doesn't say, well, you've got to win by so many points. No. So your number 1 completely, wipes out my number 6. So what? Right? See, it doesn't matter. So the point I'm trying to make is that a very simple strategic application ensures the victory, right? So you have to understand the elements and leverage the elements of the thing and utilize this, right? So strategy is leverage. Strategy enables you to do more with less, right? So I got the weaker team, but I'm rearranging it in a particular way that allows me to get more out of less. Yes.
Okay.
So very simple thing, but it's an example of strategy. Many strategies in the world, many ways to be strategic, but that's it. It's simply leverage, right? And looking at things that how can I get more out of less, right? How can I arrange things in a particular way? And that's what leverage is, right? So we have a lever, right? Is it doing anything right now? No, I'm just waving it in the air. Yes. But if I put it on a fulcrum point, right? Now, if I were to put something there and, now that fulcrum point makes this thing into a lever. It wasn't a lever before. It was just, just a rod or whatever, right? It's
Yeah.
the fulcrum point that makes it into a lever, right? So leverage is taking things that have no real value, and when you combine them in a particular way and use them in a particular way, you suddenly are able to do more than what you could do with the things without using them in that particular way. Yes?
Yes.
Right. So very, 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 very powerful understanding. Right? I mean, you see these stuff, they lie around, and like, okay, you're walking along the road and there's this big boulder in the road and you push on the boulder and you can't move it, right? You can't go on the sides because there's like cliff walls or whatever. But there's an old tree lying there, right? Well, all right, cool. So, dead tree. So the elements are there. Now you got the tree and you got a smaller boulder that you use for your fulcrum point, and you use the tree, the dead piece of wood to use as a lever and move the boulder, right?
So so say for instance you have or okay, not you, but I have the skill of being able to communicate with people on their level. Okay. It's not really like a huge skill, but
Oh, it's a massive skill. Oh, it's an
yeah,
incredible.
but like it to what I guess what the norm of society, they wouldn't think of it as a huge skill. It should be a given, correct?
Yeah.
However, I can make more out of just that one skill. I can
Absolutely.
create more skills
Absolutely.
just out of that
Absolutely.
one. So
Absolutely.
therefore it's creating
Yeah.
more out of
Yeah.
less.
Yeah. Because communication isn't just talking.
Yep, it's understanding, it's hearing, it's
Exactly. It's
all
it's
of
being
that.
patient. It's making space.
Yes.
Exactly. That whole program, right? So exactly. So your ability to communicate on their level is, yes, it's a powerful ability, but you have to use it appropriately and
Yes.
combine it with things. And that's the thing with the leverage example. right? And
Yes.
you've got all these elements. You've got, the big boulder. You've got the little stones. You've got the dead tree. You have to use them in the appropriate combination, right? Because if you don't understand about leverage, you won't know to put the piece of wood over the boulder and put the tip of the wood underneath the big under the small rock. Balance it on that, use it as a fulcrum point, and you won't know how to do this. So it's how you combine elements. That's the strategy. I'm trying to make the analogy that
Yeah.
strategy is to take those things which are just lying there and they're useless to you, because if you take the piece of wood and use it to push against the rock, well, now I'm just, pushing with a weight on me, right? It doesn't do anything to you. You take the little
No.
rock, you throw them at the big one, that doesn't help you much either, right? It's how you use the combination together. And that's your strategy, right? How you combine the usage of energies, elements, understandings, stuff like that. How you put stuff together, right? How to use things in combination. In other words, this is strategy. Yes, very powerful.
Yes.
Very, very powerful. All right. So just and rearranging what sometimes is very simple, like for instance in those matchups, right? Most people, like I said, they put in hoping that their number 2 guy will get lucky against your number 1 and so on, and that's how I'm going to win. I don't need luck, right? It's a very simple example of strategy, but that's why I use that example, because it's so simple, but yet most people don't do it just automatically, right? I mean, when kids, you had this and the 2 teams, and this is what always happened, right? The team that got to choose first always won. Like, come on, man, it doesn't have to be that way, right? So well, depending on what you were playing, of course. If you're playing a team game, then it's a different thing. Still, though, it's very interesting how this really can be utilized in many different ways. A strategy, very, very, very important. All right. So we're going to structure ourselves with the utmost strategy to make sure we're set to get the most out of life, whether or not those factors come to be or not. Most importantly, should death stop by for a chat and ask what we're doing about his touch, he'll not have to even ask, as it will be obvious we're doing everything we can and more, and we're set to not only deal with him, but get maximum value and usefulness in the meantime, until he comes visiting in earnest, and then we'll be ready. In
I
other
like
words,
that. Yeah.
we ain't fucking around here.
No. And you're okay. Yep.
We
When
ain't
it came
fucking
to
around here.
mind, yeah, when it came to mind, um, it really hit home when it comes to certain things, and in the way like I pushed through, and I wasn't going to allow you know death basically to take over. I made the most out of my life
Exactly.
at that time. Now every time it's going to be different because there's going to be more, until it comes to a point where, yep, okay, we're ready now. Let's do this.
Right. So, when it comes to sobriety, right, one of the most sober questions you can ask is, well, what are you doing about death? Well, I never really thought about it. Oh, well, I don't know. Well, whatever. Like most people have no clue when confronted with that question, they fall apart, right? It's not something that they're dealing with. Now,
Or
some
they
people,
come with the falsehood of, well, I'll just accept it.
or whatever, say, well, I'm going to go to heaven, right? Well, that's just a belief. How do you know you're going to go to heaven? What happens if you don't? Right. So, in other words, some will do this. And now here's the point, right? When we start to be strategic, if I spend my whole life preparing for an afterlife, yes, that would say, well, okay, that's kind of sensible. But then what if it turns out that there is no afterlife? Haven't I wasted my whole life?
Yep.
All right. But at the same token, on the other side of the equation, if I make no effort and there is an afterlife and then I'm totally unprepared, then I've also wasted my life.
Yep.
So
So
now,
with it,
hang on. I want to go somewhere with this, right? Very
yeah,
important point. So we want to have it both ways. We want to get value in this life in living this life, whether or not, assuming there's no afterlife, and we want to be prepared, assuming there is an afterlife and we have no clue what it is. So we want to do both, right? That's the point. That's the point. We're going to do both. We're going to get maximum value on usefulness, right, in living now, in our day-to-day, and use this maximum value in our day-to-day as, and this will be the same thing as preparing ourselves for whatever may be. So we're going to take care of both. This is what way of impeccability is. Yes.
Yes.
In other words, if I learn to be impeccable, I learn to be patient and disciplined and forbear, and learn to pay attention and learn to have discernment and awareness. This helps me in my day-to-day, right? It helps me every single day with my partner, in my domestic life, in my business, in my work, in dealing with life, in having fun, in playing. Everything this helps me with, correct?
Yes.
However, also, I don't care what freaking afterlife you might possibly imagine, right? Patience and discipline and awareness and discernment and understanding and impeccability and appropriateness and all of the stuff, they're all going to help you in that as well, correct?
Yes.
Whatever it is, I'm going to be ready for it. Why? Because I'll have character. So way of impeccability is a way for maximizing your life now and for being prepared for whatever might come.
Okay. Yes. So I do have a question.
Yeah, sorry, I just want to make one more point. In other
Okay.
words, we are setting ourselves with absolute maximum possible strategy. The strategy for maximizing this life and whatever others there might be. Yes?
Yes.
Right. So this is the key point. We are being thoroughly, utterly strategic, which is and comes from our sobriety. Right? This strategizing for now and whatever, this is maximum strategy and sobriety. Yeah. All right. So your question. Yeah.
So the saying that goes like, it's not about what you had in life, but how you lived your life.
Correct. Exactly.
Does that basically go along like, is that what they're meaning then?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We are going to take whatever we have and leverage it into value.
Okay. That makes so much more sense with that though, because like I only saw the surface of it, and I'm like, okay, yeah, but your character and all that stuff, how you lived your life, but this goes into more depth, and it makes so much more sense now as to what that meaning of that phrase was.
Right. So when you have this ability, these skills of being, it enables you to deal with whatever comes into your life, not only to deal with it in the typical sense of, well, I overcome it. No, but to extract value from it. You'll see what to do. Again, when we do retrospectively looking back in your life, already you've seen how these things were gifts, capital G gifts. There was a profoundness and a moreness to it. So you're getting value, right? You got value out of the crap in your life before. Look at just this thing when JD came around.
Yes.
Right? How that incident was a profound value to you. Why? Because you had changed. You were applying these abstract qualities. You were applying your character there, right? And so now, because you had tools that enabled you to process that differently, you were able to maximize that incident, not to be another stressful, traumatic, victim incident, but to be one of empowerment.
Yes, because soon after that, you did not allow myself to live in fear. Like I would have, the old me, would have lived in fear and wouldn't leave the house. And instead, I'm like, no, I know now who I am, and I know that I'm stronger than I used to be. And that really helps with being able to go, alone somewhere and be confident that I can handle this in the most appropriate way, and
not to be a victim and all of this stuff. Exactly.
yes, not place myself in that victim box. which I did.
Exactly.
You know, this is how I know I get more out of this than I did ever with therapy, because
Yeah.
I was constantly placed in that victim box all the time,
Exactly.
and I keep adding
Exactly.
more and more to that
Exactly.
article. So
Exactly. Where did we start? Where did we start? You know, you must ask Erica about how much this, if ever you get the opportunity, how much this start made a difference to her. It was philosophically profound, right? This, right?
yes,
You are a good person. This blew her mind and still does today. That when we started on this, we started from the premise that you are a good person, that you have moreness, you have integrity and all the stuff. You have all of this moreness here, right? You don't need fixing.
no, you need improvements.
You don't
You
even
need to do some housekeeping,
you need recognition. Exactly. Right.
self-recognition, not recognition from other people, though.
Exactly, exactly. So we're starting from the premise that you are more. And this is what we do. We are basically just going to connect to that moreness. It's a very philosophically different perspective. You go to therapy, you're broken. That's where they start from. You're
You're
broken and we're
broken,
going
you're
to,
damaged, you're shattered, you know, I mean, all
right.
kinds of.
And they don't even have this thing that we're going to fix you. We're going to try and fix you. The deepest beliefs of the therapist is basically we're going to do damage mitigation.
Yeah.
That's it. We're not even really looking to fix you. We're going to just give you ways to live with your brokenness.
Oh, yeah. Because,
That's
like, I've had
really the bottom line, correct?
yes.
Yeah.
And I had so many therapists that, you know, would tell me that, like, you know, and also I've been told so many times by therapists, you know, I will have to have therapy the rest of my life. And it's like, but why? Why does that have to be that way? Like, why
Exactly.
do I, you know what I mean? Why do I have to do that? Why do I have to live
Well,
with it?
because that's because they have come to understand they do not have replacement tools. All they have is damage mitigation tools.
Yes.
The best they can do for you is basically teach you how to live with the crap, to
Yeah. And I
endure the
don't want
crap.
to live with it. I want to,
Correct.
you know what I
Correct.
mean?
Exactly. Exactly. You want to live your own bloody life, not be a fucking, just a more competent victim.
Exactly. No, I don't want to do that.
That. Fuck
Because
that.
now that I've become, and this is the thing, is now that I've become more aware of what's around me, not just within myself, but with people in general, I am noticing like so much of people settling with
Right.
being there, you know, being in that state of mind. And it's like, oh, I feel, you know, like I feel for you. I was there at one point, but I can't tell you how to live your life.
Right. Now, remember we talked about, magical aspects, right? We
Mm-hmm.
want to live a life where we're not depending on magic because magic is not dependable. Right? It's very
No.
nature, right? All right. So we want to be able to deal with shit regardless of whether we have magic powers or not. So I want to read this last paragraph again here, right? We're going to structure ourselves with the utmost strategy to make sure we're set to get the most out of life, whether or not these factors come to be or not, whether there's magic in our lives or not. Most importantly, should JD stop by for a chat and ask what we're doing about his crap, he'll not have to even ask, as it will be obvious we're doing everything we can and more. And we're set to not only deal with him, but get maximum value and usefulness in the meantime until he comes visiting in earnest, and then we'll be ready. Yeah. So when I change it to JD, it's like, holy
It
shit.
really hit me. I started getting a little teary eyed, like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. So if you see JD as an avatar, as a representation of Death sending one of his minions to come and shake you up a little bit. Yeah. All right. So from a way of impeccability perspective, Death is one of the most potent and valuable advisors.
Yes.
You go to Death, knock on his door. Yes, what the fuck do you want? Death is very rude. Death is like super rude. You got no time for crap and shit, right? That's super
Yep.
rude. Well, all right. Now you're already kind of like, oh fuck, what did I do now? Well, you know what? I got a problem with my girlfriend. And Death is like, seriously, this is what the fuck you come and knock on my door for? Really? You want to come with this petty crap of yours? Fuck off. Oh, well, thanks for the advice, Death. Didn't Death just give you advice?
Yeah.
It said, yes, don't concern yourself with petty crap. You got more important things to worry about. Me.
Yes.
Exactly. So JD being a little minor incarnation of Death, it's like, oh, there's important shit to deal with, right? My petty crap worrying about whether I get called on break. It's like, seriously, really? This is what I'm worrying about? So I'm making a
Makes
big
so
point
much
here.
sense. Okay. Yeah, okay.
All right, I just having some fun with something.
No, I love it though, because and that's
The
the
point.
thing, is like
Exactly.
it's more profound than just, having fun, and it speaks a lot of volumes. And
Exactly. So, in other words, what I'm trying to say is, in way of impeccability, we are not just playing for, small stakes to help you with your relationship and, have a better job and whatever, get a promotion. Okay, that stuff is important, but relatively, it's not.
exactly.
So we want to play for the real important stuff. Now, we want to maximize, which means we are going to get that stuff and the bigger picture stuff, right? So we're going to get the happy home life and the good job or whatever the fuck we want, right? We're going to do that. If it's important to us, fine. But we are going to understand that it's serving a bigger purpose, right?
Yes,
So
it's a part of the small dot. Those pictures that have like the dots, that when you get close, all you see is the dots, and you move back. I forgot what they're called, but I love those pictures because it depicts like those little things, like getting the job, getting the promotion, having the family, etc. really do like come out to be a bigger picture. And
exactly.
It's all the little details that create the bigger picture.
Exactly. So this is we're playing for maximum stakes here. We're not fucking around, in other words, right?
Yes.
A spirit warrior obtains value regardless of how things turn out.
Yes.
Doesn't matter. Like when JD came around, right? I mean, you got value.
I did.
I
did.
You got obtained value. You obtained it. Yes. Didn't matter what the fuck JD did. No. In other words, I think didn't matter. You obtained the value, right? So we're coming to that. We're going to get into another this whole session on this.
I love that though. I love that saying, because it's so true. Like,
it's huge.
It is huge. It is very huge.
It changes everything. So look at your residents, right? They come to you and they got a problem, and basically they're getting screwed by life. It's unfair, things are whatever. So where are they making the effort to obtain value regardless of how things are?
They're not at that point.
Exactly. That's why they're a resident. Because of this one single thing.
Is that your quote?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna put your name after that. Because I'm gonna write that quote down.
All the quotes that aren't attributed in this are from me.
Okay. I just you
can attribute it to WOI, or way of impeccability, instead of to me. I prefer that because it's a way of impeccability quote. Yes.
Yes.
Well, this quote, this quote may come from somewhere else. I've made it my own, so it doesn't matter. But just put it as a way of impeccability quote. Yeah.
Okay.
That makes more sense. That gives it a context, right?
Yes.
Right. And this is, now it has more potency to it, and rather than just saying it's from me. Yeah.
Yep. Yes, I do. Yep.
I do understand that. Logic of it. Right. So, I mean, I've added quotes of yours, and likely I'll maybe add some of your quotes here as we go through. It doesn't matter. It's still, when we quote it, it becomes a way of impeccability quote, because that's the underlyingness to it. because there's a coherency to and a cohesiveness to all of what we're going to do. And this is what this first session is about. Context, putting it into context. If we go back over this, we are going to say, oh, what's the context here? We're looking to maximize now and then and whenever, right? So this is it. We are going to be utmostly strategic in the entirety of the possibility of being strategic, which means I'm going to get maximum value now, tomorrow, the year after, the whenever, and the before, should the wheel of time be all one singularity, or whatever. I'm going to be fucking ready for it. Correct? Right? Ready to deal with magic and power and perceiving things differently and everything, right? If you don't have your shit together, it's very easy to lose your marbles.
Yes. From experience,
There's a quote
yes.
for you to write down right there. There's a wonderful quote that you can use with the residents. If
Yes.
you don't have your shit together, it's very easy to lose your marbles. Or you can say, if you don't have a shit together, it's very easy to lose your shit.
Yes.
Right? Both ways makes a very powerful point, right? Well, why are you here? Because you lost your shit.
Yep.
Well, get your shit together. Right. It's very, very, very cool. Very, very cool stuff, right?
Yes, it is very much so.
All right. So this thing of obtaining value, regardless of how things turn out, there's more to it. Right? This is about setting my strategy in such a way that I'm going to undertake, let's say, whatever. All right. For instance, I'm going into a new job, right? So I'm going to get value regardless of how that turns out. Well, I end up getting fired next week. Does it matter to me? No. Why? Because I got value no matter what happens. Correct? I
Yes.
get promoted, I get value. Well, some people get promoted and it's like the end of their lives really get fucked up by being promoted, right?
Yes.
So because they're not ready for it. Much it overwhelms them. They got stress and worry and oh my God, it's responsibility or whatever. They can't handle it. So, but a warrior, a spirit warrior, gets value regardless of how things turn out. And this quote is going to come back over and over again because there's many ways in which this applies. You'll see, right? There's a lot of depth to this that's not necessarily obvious right now. It's very cool. Very, 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 very potent quote for what's to come. All right. So now we get to in session 1. Your task is to put together a takeaway of the session and to construct a repeat back. So we're getting into the repeat backs and takeaways very gently here. As we go along, you'll want to start doing this on a slide-by-slide basis, right? So you want to do the repeat back in addition to the slide-by-slide repeat backs, which is explaining back to us in live, sessions what they are already, right?
Yeah.
So pay particular attention to the intent of the session. That's what I want you to do for next time, right? So do a overall repeat back and a takeaway of the whole session, the session 1, right? That we call it session, right? The online so and then pay attention to the intent, right? Pay particular attention to the intent of the session. Do the same for all the sessions as you do them. It's very important, right? We want to get into this habit of paying attention to intent. You'll also start files, one for repeatbacks, one for takeaways, and one for your dictionary power. Now, some people don't have separate files. They put it all together. However, you can also arrange your notes by session. You do it however it works for you. But start your filing system. Start some form of way that you can structure the stuff, that you can come back to it, because you will be coming back to it. It's very powerful, right? It's very, very important to have your notes properly organized, right?
Yes.
So make an effort to get that. Then write down your personal intents for doing the Way of Impeccability program and your life intents.
Okay.
Right? This is the heart of this of the task and exercise. I
Yes.
cannot emphasize how important this is. Right? Write down your personal intents for doing the Way of Impeccability program and your life intents. I mean, your life intents is holy fuck. This is a big question. So yes, it is. It's a huge question, right? Or huge
It
task.
is. It is
Right.
a very huge because it really sets the foundation of
Correct.
where you're going with this.
Correct. So this page we look at, this slide we're looking at now, some people took weeks to do it. Because look at the next one. Make a list of all your beliefs which significantly impact your life. All your beliefs which are important to you. That's a big freaking task right there.
It is huge. And that's the thing too, is like my beliefs in the beginning have significantly changed.
Exactly. So again, yeah, right. This is a very big deal, right? I mean, this is not a simple exercise, right?
No, it's not. It's a huge deal
Right.
because it also impacts like
Right.
your intent and it impacts your way of impeccability.
So
Yes.
I cannot emphasize enough how this particular slide is, how important it is to do as thoroughly as you can, because
Yes.
it's going to come. We're going to come back to this regularly, right? All right.
Yes.
Now, third, we got another one here, right? Create another list of what activities or behaviors in your life take significant time and energy. All right. So, Ms. Tech,
Yes.
right. Next time you are on session, on call, what do you call it when you on duty?
We call it group.
When you're in group?
Yeah, when we're in group is when we mostly interact.
I love that what is the place that you're working at? What is it called?
It's called Alcohol and Drug Solutions.
But what do you guys call it? The center? What do you call it?
We just basically call it the center or the house. We usually what we do is call it the house.
The house. Okay. So next time you're at the house and you're in group at the house, that's your language, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I love that the house has its own language. It's very powerful, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Next time you're in group in the house, right? Think of these 3 tasks here, right? Well, I mean, it's actually, well, there's in the first one, it's 2, and in the second one, it's kind of also, right? All right, anyway, but they 3 core ones, right? It's your intents,
Yes.
and then your beliefs, and then your energies, right?
Yes.
And then say if you have opportunity to do this, if you have a resident that has some serious endeavor to really want to change, right? Have
Yes.
them do these exercises.
Okay, I can do that. Yeah.
Right? So
My
imagine
question.
that you say this to a resident, right? Pick a resident in your mind. Just pick one at random, right?
I have one. Yep.
Name. You got a name?
Yep, I do. Dean.
Steve. All right, Steve. Right. What I want you to do, please, is write down a list of your personal intents for being here. Right. In this case, Way of Impeccability. Right. For being here, and your life intents. Make a list. Be thorough. Then make a list of all your beliefs, Steve, which significantly impact your life. All your beliefs which are important to you. All, and stress all of them, right?
Even
Very
past ones?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
I wanted to clarify that because I was like, so do I do past and present?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Because the past ones give you a view of your present and make you realize and see the difference. Plus, the reason to do past ones is because of habit.
Yes.
Right?
Okay, yeah,
Past
I wanted
ones
to clarify that second one.
manifest in our lives via habit. Yes. So
Yes.
they're very important, right? The inner bureaucrats, they're bureaucrats. Does a bureaucrat ever throw even anything away?
No.
No, they don't. Right.
No.
Okay. All right. So that's why we want to know what the hell those bureaucrats are hanging on to there, right? Very
Yes.
important. Then, Steve, create another list of what activities or behaviors in your life take significant time and energy. Yeah. Now, you're going to be fascinated at what people put on these lists and what they omit to put on this list, right?
Oh,
For
yeah.
create another list of activities or behaviors in your life which take significant time and energy, right? Of what activities take? When they say, well, Steve, I don't notice irritation and annoyance on your list. I see what you mean. I never thought of that.
Or
Oh,
stress or worry.
exactly. See? So you don't cue them. All right, I've given you a hint here, which, right, but you're going to see when others do this, how they not going to really be paying attention to what takes significant time. Maybe they do. Let's hope. All right. So these three, and again, each one of them is broken down into their sub things. Well, they have more than one, but still, it's very, 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 very powerful and important.
Like I have one resident who all of his energy and time is literally spent on his 10 kids
There you go. There you go.
and none for himself. I even asked him because he finally did something for himself. He bought himself new clothes. And I asked him, I was like, how did that make you feel though? Like you finally did something for yourself. Then how did that make you feel? He got the biggest smile on his face. He goes, it felt amazing. I don't remember the last time I did anything like that for myself. And I was like, exactly.
Yeah. So we have the intent of knowing the material, and through that intense and thorough knowing, we'll feel it all and thus come to live it. Right. So this is a takeaway here from Donna. It says, in learning the intellectual concepts inside and out, without creating a belief system built around them, I was able to take the knowing and apply what felt good and comfortable for me. Once the intent was set to expand my awareness and stay attuned, the exact knowing I needed became apparent through the modules. I was able to extract the knowing that helped me remember the more that I am. Very significant to me. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's
I like that.
just some cool reflections. So it's more from Donna, but you can go through this yourself, and there's some stuff from Sue and edited. Yeah. So yeah. Your brain on story. I just extra link, which is like extracurricular stuff if you want to look at it. So
Okay.
I don't have much of these things. I'd like to have more of them. But anyway, so we come to this, and the task now is to do those exercises, right?
Yes.
They're very similar to what we're going to do in the other one, but these are more focused. And like I
Yes.
said, we'll continue when you've done these, because we can't continue until you've done them, right?
Yes.
And there's no rush, there's no hurry. Do it whenever you can. I just want to emphasize that this is something that you got to do until it's done fully and done
Yes.
right. I mean, they're just a huge, massive deal. Now, I would recommend you hopefully can get Natalie to also do these. It will
Yes.
benefit, these will benefit everybody, and just for your own fun, simply just as an exercise, as an experiment of awareness. Share, write it down so that you can go and read it out to Steve or whoever, right?
Yes.
And have them do it, and just from this exercise, just from the doing of this exercise, you're going to
Yes.
see results. Just from the doing, not what's on their list, but the fact that they did it, that they made the list. Next time you see Stephen, he's made the list. Let's assume he's done it properly. You're going to see there's difference. You don't have to know what's on Steve's lists
No.
to see that there's going to be difference. So the doing is what makes the difference. Not, oh, here's my list, and now you get some kind of report card, you get a gold star, and no, that's not what it's all about, right? So this is very important to understand, that this is about the doing. Yes, again, everything we do is about the doing. Yes.
Yes, definitely.
All right, very cool. Very, very, very cool. All right, very fun stuff. Brilliant, 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 brilliant. Very, very exciting. I'm very excited about this. This is very cool.
I am too. I'm very excited about it too.
So we're going to build. We're going to build. We're going to build, and it's very, very cool. Tell me more about the house, and how did it come about, and who's it for? What's the mission statement? What's going on there? I'm just keen to know a bit more. Yeah, because it's
Okay,
going to be
so
what we're doing here. That's what I want to know.
we mostly work with men. There I so there's multiple there's multiple owners, co-owners of this program, and there's two separate houses. There's the treatment facility, there's a treatment house, the house, and then there's also the transitional living house.
Wow.
And that transitions them, basically teaches them, normal life skills. So they're actually apartments that they learn, they do like cooking, they, look for jobs, stuff like that. The house that I'm working at now, I used to work at the transitional living house, but I'm now working at the house, the treatment house. And that one, so basically it's the mission there is to learn about their own addiction, and learn about what led them to their addiction, and
self-awareness, in other words.
yes, self-awareness.
And
Also, though, my goal, and this is what I talked to the main owner, on Sunday when she stopped by, and I told her, I was like, my initial goal with this is that I also not only want them to right, also not only do I want to work with them on their own awareness, but also awareness of other people, that way, in their surroundings and the beliefs and stuff like that. That way also they're not being sucked in by black holes, by bullshit, and
Exactly.
that's the thing, is that
keep reading the book, by the way. Keep reading the book.
Oh yeah. And I also shared, there's a quote that it was significant to me in the book, and it just really hit. It says, we can compromise on optional matters like style, but how do we compromise on matters of ethics? We cannot.
Exactly.
So there is compromise we can do. The compromise we can't, or in the compromise we can't, seeing things for what they truly are, and not what we would like them to be, takes courage. That was the quote that really, it was very significant.
Yes. So what I would recommend is, in the house, do you have a kind of an office, a space you work?
Yes.
So start making that quote, and post-it is a little bit of a chintzy way of doing it, but find some way that you can write out that quote or print it out and put it up in the space.
Yep, I love that. Okay, I can do that.
So as you go through the book and the program, you're going to be adding these profound quotes in that space, right?
Yes.
And so you're now using it to remind yourself and to leverage your situation. Because anybody coming to you, Steve, he reads this quote. Fuck. That's an awful truth for your typical resident, right?
Yes.
That quote is like a fucking smack in the face.
Yes, it is.
Right. It's like, wake the fuck up. It's not about what how the making it pretty to what you want. No, see it for what it is. Right. So that quote is about learning to face and deal with the awful truth. Right?
Yep.
So that's the point I wanted to make with you earlier. Right. it's not just that an awful truth is actually an awesome truth. Yes, it is so, but it's how it changes from the one. Because if you don't face it and deal with it, that's when it's an awful truth. It
Yes.
only becomes the awesome truth when you face it and deal with it.
Yes.
Right. So you know, when you were sharing your takeaway earlier, that was kind of not quite so obvious there. So direct. I
Yeah,
think
I didn't make it obvious. I knew where I was going with it, but I need to
correct.
make it
Correct.
obvious as if
That's
I'm
why
sharing
I
with
mentioned
somebody
it
else.
now, right? This is very, very important, especially in your line of work. Yes, it is
Yes.
all about first you've got to face that awful truth. Well, the
Yes.
awful truth is that you're indulgent, you know, that you're whiny, you're complaining, you don't want to accept the realities of life. You know, you want to live in a family, blah, 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 whatever. Those are all over. Now that's facing it. First of all, you got to face it. You got to face the fact that it's what it is. Then you got to deal with it, which means, well, what do you mean? I'm like in a victim mindset. Well, now dealing with being in a victim self-pitying mindset, that's quite a big deal to deal with, right? But
Oh, yeah.
once you do then deal with it, you're going to see that all these things that you believed were awful truths become awesome truths. But only if you face and deal with it, right? This is the key point, right? So that's why I bring death into it, because when you have death as your advisor, well, now all this petty crap that you thought was the most important shit in the world, right? It becomes nothing. Yes. So death
Yes.
gives you perspective. That's why death is the number one advisor. Death doesn't say anything. It just says, what the fuck? You worried about this shit? Worry about me. Oh, instantly you've got perspective. instantly,
Yes.
instantly. No fucking around, in other words, right? And that's what the typical theme there is, that those people are all fucking around with bullshit. Correct?
Yes.
Exactly. All right. So this is really, really awesome. But just, you know, as you go through and you have these profound points of awareness that you're going to pull, you know, quotes, whatever, but your own as well, understandings, your own takeaways that really encapsulate things like that quote, because that quote is now your quote. Yes.
Yes. Yeah, it's
Your quote.
definitely.
When you read it, you internalized it, and it's now your quote, right? That's why I don't care for quote attributions. You know, just put it as a quote. Who's this from? Does it matter? It can be you and me. It comes from anywhere. It's a universal truth, right? So that's it.
Yes.
Doesn't belong to anybody. The moment you attribute it, you're saying it's important because dickhead said so.
Yes.
I don't care if fucking Einstein or the Dalai Lama or whoever said it, right? They also said a lot of stupid stuff, right? It's fascinating. So it doesn't matter. It's not important because they said so. It's important because of what it says. And I'm the one who determines whether that's important or not them.
Precisely. Okay, yeah.
So
I
I
can
don't
I
care
can
for
see
quote
your point on that.
attribution, right? So, you know, this is very powerful. So when you put that quote up there and somebody says, who's it from? Say, make it from yourself. Then it has value. If it's from somebody else, it's their truth. Make it your own quote.
Yeah, it doesn't really, I
Now it
mean, it
has
resonates, but not
value.
like fully
Right?
enough.
So who's it from? You.
You.
Say, what do you mean? Read it again until it's from you. Then you'll get the value out of it. See?
Yep.
And the fact that you saw it as valuable in the first place was because it resonated with you, which
Mm-hmm.
means it's coming from you anyway. See?
Yes.
So there's a whole, we have later coming on, there's a session on quotes. It's called Quoting the Self. So we're going to get into quotes. It's very, just, you know, it's a simple thing, but man, it changes everything. Anyway, so I'm jumping a little bit to get there, but just because of your
Okay.
circumstance. Now, let me ask you more on this. How big is this the whole operation that you involved in? I'm just curious to get some perspective on what's going on.
Okay, so the house itself it doesn't look very large from the outside, but on the inside it's huge.
Wow.
And every single, okay, so there's more than 8 bedrooms. There are, let's see, there's one, well, there's
Like how
active
many
bedrooms.
residents and how many techs?
Okay, so right now we have just the two because we're getting ready for the second round of
The
residents
two
to come
what?
in.
what?
Two residents right now who are basically waiting to graduate. And then after they graduate, we have a whole new round of residents that come in. We can have up to 10 residents at a time, one tech per 10 residents.
Right.
So we then have we have three techs. We have me, myself, or we have myself. We have another lady that works the 4 to 11 shift, and then we have also another tech that works the midnight to 8 a.m. shift. Now, during the week, though, is all of the counselors. It's the drug and alcohol counselors is also, they have other people come in for like art therapy. They have other people to come in for, other things. And so those are the people that work during the week. And then the weekends is usually like, okay, so like the 4 to midnight is one tech that comes in during the week, and then the midnight to 8 a.m. is another, and then at 8 a.m. all of the other people come in, like the treatment people. But as techs, we can also facilitate a lot of the stuff, especially like me, where I work during the day on the weekends. I can facilitate a lot with them. But once I get to a point where I'm able to, well, it's continuous training. I know this, but once I get to like, the aspect where I can to share more of what, I know, as well as more of, how I can go about things. Then they are, would be putting me during the week in various different times to kind of facilitate certain groups and
So,
things like that.
and this is just in the one house, not in the other house.
This
So,
isn't just the one house. The other house, they have their own um separate
yeah, I remember.
stuff that they do, but
Yeah.
they have budgeting, they have life skills, they have, things like
But
that.
I mean, it's the same size, more or less.
No, there's more at the other one because there's
I
three men to an apartment, and there are 6 apartments.
Okay, so 18.
Yes.
All right. All right. Anyway, the key is that also what I want to know is when they employed you, did they give you a mission statement? Did they give you guidance? I mean, it just seems like they just sort of chucking you in the deep end here, if you ask
They
me.
do. They check you in the deep end. That's how that happens with techs.
What did they? What is your job description?
My job description is a tech. It's basically it's a co-facilitator on the weekends.
And that's all they said to you, a co-facilitator?
Co-facilitator on the weekends. I've worked now. See, this isn't my
what?
forever job. Like, I'm not going to be doing it because eventually we're moving to another state in March next year. So this is something that's more of like my I
No
want to
matter,
say
it's training, it's fabulous training. So
yes. And so, but when
I'm
when
just
we
curious
move,
what they told you when they employed you. What did they say? What do you
that I would be
like?
trained on the groups and stuff like that, on how to do certain groups like
So when you
but
go in on the weekends, there's somebody there who basically gives you some guidance of what's expected from you.
no, there isn't, because the person that was supposed to do it did not show up,
Oh,
and
well,
she
there's
just
somebody who's
randomly
supposed
quit.
to be there.
Yeah, the person who was scheduled to do it
So,
did
but
not
still,
show
though,
up.
I mean, surely the person who employed you must have given you some idea of what you're supposed to be doing.
I don't have very much. Like Damien's the one who employs me. And like he knows that I know the gist of everything on how it goes. So that's why he didn't really like
Okay,
go
well,
into
because
detail.
you've been a resident, and that's why you know.
Yes. And that's why he also like now if it was somebody else who didn't have any life experience with it, then yes, he would go into detail about stuff.
Okay.
However,
Well, I would be keen to hear for somebody who hasn't been through it what these expectations are of basically what your job requirements are. I'm just would be interested to know. Just
yeah,
from a
well, and
clarity
that's
of
the thing is
point
like
of view.
something that I heard, that I was as I was talking to some of the residents, the ones who don't have that personal life experience, whether it be dealing with somebody within, having family members who have, addictions, or personal, self having, addiction issues.
Yeah,
Um, those like they interact more with the residents than those who don't. Those who just kind of have no idea about it. They don't interact with the residents. And the residents actually prefer to be interacted with by the other staff members. And reason being is because it helps them, learn more. And so that's why they really like the fact that when I went in there, I don't go in there with prejudgments.
Right.
I
So
go
if
in
you
there.
right, if you were to ask the owner, or if I were to ask the owner, what is your intent with this facility?
His intent is
What?
to help guide other addicts in recovery, um, to learn how to live life more with sobriety, with being clean, things like that.
Okay.
They
So
are like
the owner is an addict also.
the owner is an addict also. The other owner is an addict in recovery as well. So he in his heart he wants to truly help, like truly like guide them, truly um give them the tools that they need to live a productive life, because also the transitional living facility, those men come from high security, like maximum security prisons.
Wow.
So they transition from maximum security to, now this is where the system really does fail people, because maximum security, they don't have any sort of recovery
Exactly.
basis. And on top of that, our prisons in Nebraska are completely over capacity.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
so but there's no tools that are given to them how to they just release you and be like, have fun.
Correct. All right.
Whereas what we do is we help rehabilitate them into learning how to live life.
Right. Okay. I'm just getting a bit more clarity. So now that's what I assume to be, but I try never to assume. I always check. Right.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing here. All right. So from my perspective, I have 3 cores. Well, there's actually a 4th, but we'll get to that much later. So the 3 are way of impeccability. And then, of course, you've got hearing and helping. And you've got the psychology of superiority paradigm, or the book, right? Which is, but I mean, it's in course form, right? And, Sher's busy doing the PSP course now. But look at it from the owner's point of view. What I have is what is needed in his operation in the system, right?
Yes.
Not just by the residents, but also by the techs and by the counselors, right?
Yes.
Because the PSP, this is that, as you're going to see, you dealing, especially when you're dealing with recovered prisoners, you need to understand the psychology of the superiority paradigm, because first of all, it's what got them into trouble in the first place. Second of all, it is the entire culture of prison, right? It's the culture of our culture outside of prison, but it is exaggerated and emphasized and focused in prison, right?
Yes.
So this is very important to understand it, because if you understand that, you're going to understand how the prisoners think.
Yes? Oh yes, and I already planned on setting up a meeting with Damien and talking to him about this program. And reason being is because I think they would definitely benefit and they would have a higher success rate.
Oh, absolutely. Because what way of impeccability is, it's replacement, right?
Yes.
Now to not only have the program for the participants, right, for the residents, in other words, but also to do the capital H hearing for your techs and your therapists, your counselors. All of them can benefit from that.
Yes.
And then also, as a bonus on top of that, for both residents and techs to do the psychology of superiority paradigm. This benefits everybody to know this. So there's 3 key programs, of course, wave impeccability being the first one. And then, the other 2 are for the techs, they want to do both, and the counselors. And for the residents, they might not necessarily want to do the hearing and helping because they may not want to be going into that field in their life. Not that it will benefit everybody. So, because you're learning to hear yourself. So
Yes.
it's beneficial regardless. But nonetheless, it's sort of optional for a resident. But still, in other words, what I'm trying to say is the owner, if he gets to see this, I can come during the week and do an online class with both the techs, the counselors, the residents, or all of them together. I prefer to do it separately, which would be much more sensible, right? One for the techs, one for the counselors, one for the residents, and I can do multiple times a week. So this would be very cool. I think this would be
It
very
would
awesome.
be. And that's what I plan
And
on, I plan on definitely setting up a meeting with him and talking to him about it and saying, hey, I think this would be extremely beneficial. You'd have a higher success rate.
right. So
And
why do you recommend this?
I recommend it because not only will it help them with themselves and understanding themselves and their life and way, but also being able to hear and help as well as help other help the
But I mean,
residents.
go why beyond that, below that. In other words, Damien says, well,
It's
okay, this
life
sounds
changing.
wonderful, right? But why is it life changing? See, that's the point that I want to share with you now. Because if you just say to somebody, look, this is wonderful, they okay, I believe you, but why should I believe you? Right? You get a lot of people that come to you with great ideas. Why? For one, or at least there's a bunch of reasons, but one of the most key reasons is that way of impeccability provides a replacement way of living.
Okay.
This is the key. It's a replacement. Yes. And it is a replacement that is not based on belief. Right? So
Yes.
it's a replacement way of living, and the replacement is tools of living. That's what you're replacing the old way of living with, which was just higgledy-piggledy, random, everywhere, all over the show. Yes?
Yes.
Right. That's it. The way of living we have it's chaotic, right?
Yes.
Now we're coming to a deliberate way of living, and there are tools for this way of living, right? And that's what makes it different, is that you are training people to use tools of living, not beliefs, to go at, okay, religion, whatever, No, that's a belief that you choose for yourself. So it's tools of living that anybody can use. That's why it's valuable, because
Okay.
it's sharing tools of living. And the same way with the hearing and helping, those are tools
Tools.
that you use. They are tools, right? So this is the
Yes.
very key, not the belief systems and not ideologies, no, tools, right? And they
Yes.
are self-evident sensibilities.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Right. So this is right. Self-evident sensibilities. Put it in your dictionary of power. Right.
Yes, I did.
It's very key to understand that that quote that grabbed you from the book. It's filled with self-evident sensibilities. Right. The awful
Yes.
truth. It's the ability to face and deal with the awful truth.
Yes, it is.
Oh, I see. Wow, what, do you have to believe anything in this? No. Is it
No.
self-evidently a obvious value to you? Well, yeah. See, self-evident sensibilities. This is what sobriety is founded on. Self-evident sensibility. Yes? Don't
Yes.
believe me. Don't believe me. If you have to believe, it's only going to last for a short while. When
Yes.
you understand and you see the self-evident sensibility, how do you go back on that?
True.
You cannot. See, you
No.
can't go back on it, but a belief you can throw away at any time, right? So a
Mhm.
belief only has value as long as the person believes it. So any system that is predicated on beliefs is a short-lived system.
Yes, it's only as good as it lasts.
Exactly. So it's not going to last very long because people they shift their beliefs like their underwear, right, all the time,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, and their beliefs get soiled too. And that's, well, that doesn't work so much, throw it away, right? Throw it out. So this is
Yes.
very important, very important. Do you have to go?
Yeah, I have to go pee so bad right now.
Well, go and come back because I want to finish this. This is an
Okay.
important point.
I'll be right back.
Sure. Yeah, always you can say, no problem. Michael, bouncing around. Too brilliant.
Okay.
All
We're
right,
back.
so I'm answering the question. Say, wow, okay, you know, this is too wonderful. This stuff that you're saying, it's wonderful, but you got to know, you got to be able to say why. Yes,
Yes.
why it's wonderful, and it's wonderful because it's replacement. Yes,
So it's a replacement. It's replacement tools of living.
correct. Well, it's replacement ways of living and what
Ways.
we are. Yeah, ways of living and ways of being, and the core of it are tools. They tools of living, they tools of choice, tools of understanding, tools of awareness, etc. Right? So this is very, very, very powerful. Right? And this key point of replacement, and it's replacement that is not based on ideology or belief. Right?
Yes. Sorry, I'm writing it down.
Right. This is like so essential. Yes.
Yes.
So these are tools that empower you, in other words. Yeah.
Replacement not based on
Ideology or belief. Right. But self-evident sensibility, which is another word for sobriety. Right. So these are the actual tools, awarenesses, discernments, understandings, which comprise sobriety in its full, complete utterness. Yes.
Yes.
In other words, they are empowerment tools, but they're also tools for living, tools for daily living, and tools for deliberate living. Yes.
Yes.
Right. So when we look at this, say, holy shit, isn't the reason those people got into trouble because they didn't live deliberately?
Yep.
Right. So do you see why it's valuable?
Very.
So right. So this is, and also it deals with bigger questions, right? Many of the people that are in trouble are there because they are connected to big picture issues and they don't know how to deal with it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is very powerful, right? So they get overwhelmed by these big picture issues, and they well, fuck, I don't know what to do about my death and in my life, my afterlife, my spirit, my soul, all this shit, right? And it fucks them up. They can't deal with it. Yeah.
It does. And that's, the thing is that, it becomes a black hole in that sense too.
Exactly.
Because you don't see anything else around you. It's all black and you don't see the light or any other possibilities. You just see that, bigger picture issue, and you
Right.
don't see any other option,
Correct.
any other
Correct. Got no
choices.
tools for dealing with it. Precisely.
Yeah, there is absolutely zero tools, like
Right.
none.
So,
The only
so
tool
these
that you come to think that is sensible is by using.
exactly, exactly, exactly. So that's why replacement is so huge, because you
Replacement
take
is
away
important.
using, what the hell do you replace it with? They don't. Nobody ever says.
Nobody knows. No.
All they tell you is don't use, and why it's a fuck up to use. But they don't really say, well, if I'm not going to use, what am I going to do? Way of
Yes. Well,
impeccability is what you're going to do, right?
and that was something that was brought to my attention by the residents, is that they get so sick and tired of having to continuously go over their past mistakes and things that they, that got screwed up. And like every day they're having to talk about what brought them there, talk about what they did, talk about, things like that. And they're like, they get so sick and tired, and it's very defeating, because they come in there, they already have a low self-esteem, and then they're constantly having to talk about everything but no solution as to how to deal with it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that was something that to me was alarming, because I'm like, oh no, like we can't do this. Like, and so my intent for this, as well as going in and talking with Damien, is letting him know there's a whole thing out there that not many people know about, and I think you should know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And these
Good
are the
call.
reasons why.
Right. So one more, or there's, I don't know, I'm just going to go through all the reasons. I don't know how many there are. One more reason why this is of value to residents and techs and counselors and everybody involved is because it gives something meaningful and purposeful and significant. It provides that, right? MPS, right? Meaningful, purposeful, and significant. Or another magic per second.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, here's the point, right? So you see this in the military, right? In the military, they give that code of honor, and it makes the soldiers feel like they're doing something meaningful, purposeful, and significant. Now, in this
Yes.
case, you have to do this because, well, what are you really doing? You're training to be killers. Oh, okay, that's not very cool. Yeah. But when you do it and you're being honorable, and you're doing it for love of country and glory and all this shit, well, all right, now you're wonderful. Yeah. See what I'm saying? Now,
Yes.
all right. But in way of impeccability, it touches that core in us that wants things to be meaningful and purposeful and significant. So that's why the name is very important. Way of impeccability. Oh, fuck, wow. All right. Yes, I would love to learn how to be impeccable and how to learn to live impeccably, to live with honor and integrity, etc. People want this, even fucking criminals. It's fascinating, right?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter. Look at all the code of,
They
like,
do. Yeah, I
the
definitely see
criminals,
that.
like,
They do.
they have their codes, and they have their rules. They all, don't be a rat. It's all, it's in other words, all of your criminal rules and codes of conducts, and all those stuff that they go by, they all just perverted and subverted codes of honor. Right? They
Yeah.
misapplied, they inappropriately applied codes of honor. The way of impeccability is a code of personal honor that you end up creating. Not me, it doesn't come from me. You're going to create it. That's the power here, right? So that you have something that you get to live by that makes a difference.
Yes.
So
Okay.
way of impeccability gives you something to live by that makes a difference regardless of what circumstance you find yourself in. That's the key point, right? It's your personal code of honor and ethics and integrity that you end up creating because it makes sense to you. That's a very key point, right? So it's not only providing meaning and purpose and significance, but it's providing the tools by which the participants create the meaning, purpose, and significance themselves. And that's the only time it's meaningful. You can preach meaning and purpose and significance all you like, and what happens to it? In 1 year, out the other year, correct?
Yep.
Or people live it for a while and then they throw it away because it's not theirs. If you want meaning and purpose and significance to stick, it has to be self-created. Right? So this is a very key point of why Way of Impeccability is valuable for a situation like that, right? For not just residents, but also the techs and the counselors and everybody involved, right? Because you get these tools to build meaning and purpose and significance in your life. Again, if you can create your own meaning and purpose and significance, aren't you then able to truly live deliberately?
Yes.
Which was our back starting point, tools for deliberate living, right?
Yes, it was.
Right. So in that tools for deliberate living, there's a ton behind that, right? It's like a capstone of a massive pyramid of monism. So these are all very, very vital things. And also, Way of Impeccability shifts you into looking at life from a perspective of I am the one responsible. So this is very, very key, right? So everything that people are there, they are there because they have a victim mindset in one way or another. Yes.
Yes.
Right. Now, some of them may really argue with you that they're a victim, like somebody coming out of jail. I'm Mr. Tough Guy, and I survived jail and all this. They don't think of themselves as victims, but yet they still feel the world is. Or let me put it this way: they are a victim. Why? Because they don't take responsibility for their lives. Capital R responsibility. Way of Impeccability is precisely about that.
Yes.
Anybody, the owner of this project and any of your people who are in charge there are going to understand that without the individual taking capital R responsibility for their behavior actions, whether this be a resident or a tech or a counselor, you're going to have trouble. Correct?
Yes.
Right? So Way of Impeccability is about capital R responsibility for remaining alive, not for being alive, for remaining alive. Right? So nuance in there, right? But it changes it just makes the point a little bit the obvious, right? Because if you say remaining alive, it implies you choosing to do so. And right there, it's a self-reinforcing loop. Yes. It's a self-evident sensibility what responsibility means. See, so I'm utilizing the language very skillfully there. Yes.
Yes. So I
right.
have actually access on my phone to my Google Doc, so I'm typing this in as we go.
Good. Perfect. Right. So another reason why this is valuable is because Way of Impeccability is really another name for Way of Impeccability. The program is, or just Way of Impeccability as a philosophy, is the language of conceptuality.
Okay.
Right. So this is what you are going to acquire, is a language of conceptuality.
Yes.
So how many of those that people have are because they did not have the language, the concepts to be able to think of and be aware of or imagine or in any way connect to and relate to alternatives. They simply did not have the fucking language.
Very true.
I shared one single word with you. One. The concept of mourners, and it changed your life. One concept.
Oh, yeah.
See? So when you have a whole language of conceptuality, you become phenomenally empowered. Yeah? So your dictionary of power, it's why it's called the dictionary of power, not a list of power. It's a dictionary. Why? Because a dictionary is about stuff that you speak, you think, right? You conceive, right? And in other words, it's a dictionary of power conceptions. They're not, and a conception is an overview thing. It allows you to be empowered in any circumstance. So this language of conceptuality is ridiculously powerful, right? So it's one more reason why it's powerful. Now, if they really want to get into, if they're still not convinced, I can share with them the pre-program program, which has all those promises in it, right? You know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about?
Yep.
Right? And so it will tell you there. Or I can go to, I'll show you. But that should be enough, right? So, in other words, what I'm doing here is I'm not screwing around, right? These
No.
are tools that they are tools, and because they are tools, the individual empowers themselves through being able to use the tools, right? It happens of its own accord, right? I'm not saying here's what you need to believe this. No, you learn how to use the tools, and then, well, I know how to use a hammer and a thing. I can go and construct things, right? So it's automatically empowering when you learn how to use tools, right? That's it. Yeah. Right? Very, very powerful. All right, so what am I trying to do? Oh, yes. All right, so right here, the very last session is about what way of implementation. So if they want to really get to know more about this, well, first they can look through those promises, which will tell you, and then this is all. It's just basically quotes, just a wrap
So
up,
I'm
right?
hearing a lot of music.
Oh, that's right. Hold on.
That's okay. I'm like trying to listen to you. Like all I hear is music. It's really upbeat. I love it, but it's like I'm hearing music.
Well, because I had I have the music playing on my speakers, and I listen to you on the phone, right?
Oh,
So,
okay, yeah.
but when I do the screen share, they give a little button to say optimize for sound, and then you basically hear my computer sound directly. You see, so
Yeah.
that was useful when we were listening to the audio, but
No, I love the music. It's very upbeat. I really love it. It like is energetic, and I don't know, made me smile.
So anyway, I can go through this with them. It's called character training, implementation, and self-proving, right? So these are all what way of impeccability is, right? So it's I've got a whole module on it, and well, you'll see when we get there eventually. There's a logic to why it's there, but should
Yeah.
they want more? All I'm saying is that I'm going to provide value because it's the value of tools, right? That's what it is.
Yes.
Value of training people to use tools. To train them to have beliefs, that's useless. Yes. We have
Yes.
to be very careful. In other words, it's all about self-empowerment. Right? So very, 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 very powerful, right? And
I really do believe that this, and I'm going to say believe because
yeah. Well,
it's
appropriate at
personal.
this stage. It's a belief until you prove it
Yes,
to yourself.
and I do believe that this will the company as well as the residents will certainly benefit from this, and I just even if I have to, I'll go up, more on chain of command. I'll talk to, his mom. I'll talk to, because she's also co-partner. There's also a lot of other co-partners in this too. And I think all of them, I believe all of them will benefit from this. And then they could also, start utilizing as well as, your services as well with, for the residents. And that could be a part of their curriculum in their groups.
Yeah. So I'm sending you a link to the pre-program program, right?
Okay.
Right.
I also have the link to that page that you had shown me with all the programs. I use that for when like I'm doing repeat backs and takeaways instead of you just sending me the individual links.
Yeah. Well, but you have that overall link that I gave you in the email.
Yeah,
I
so I
sent
can
you,
do the
where
repeat
you can
backs and
access
takeaways
all
and
the
stuff.
programs, right? So that you don't want to share with anybody, but this link that I'm sending you now, this you can give to the owner. What was his name? Damien, you said?
Damien, yeah.
Damien, anybody, right? And this will give them an idea of, well, what this link is for. This is for yeah. Let me go back to screen share.
It's a overview of what entails this. Is that
Well, no, it's the link to the program. This how to do how to
Okay.
take web impeccability and wellness projects. So in other words, PSP and hearing and helping, right?
Yes.
So, but in this because it's not doesn't just tell you what the programs are about, but because I do things so very differently, and I'm coming to a point here for them, right? I do things differently. You don't just come and you take it and you watch and you read. It's interactive. You as a participant have to do stuff, and there's a lot you have to do. But first, it tells you really what Way of Impeccability is about, all the program promises, right? And then it says how to do it, and then a couple of. So if they go through this, they're going to have a very, very clear idea of what it is I do and why it's valuable. So the key point that I want to make is this year, right? Never mind the program promises. From this, from a point of view of the owner of the facility, right? When you get people coming in there, the residents, they basically in a space where their lives are now, there's kind of a nothingness in their lives, right? They're in,
Yes.
when they come out of jail, they don't have anything to do. Yes. Now,
Yes.
if you're going to take Way of Impeccability, as you already know, this involves a tremendous amount of doing that you've got to go and do on your own time. Yes. You got to do your repeat backs. You got to do your takeaways. You got to do the tasks and exercises. You got to do your dictionary of power, right?
Yes.
It's a lot of shit to do. It's a full-time job, pretty much.
It is.
Yes? All right. So my point is that why this is valuable is because it is going to give your residents stuff to do that's going to fill up their time.
Yes.
If your time is filled up with meaningful stuff, purposeful stuff, significant stuff, stuff that's valuable, you don't have time to get into trouble.
No.
You don't have time to feel sorry for yourself.
I don't have time at all right now, even for that.
Exactly. So that's why I'm sharing that pre-program program. It will show how much there is to do. And when we go into those, let me go back there again now. This, very key, the 9 tasks of doing. Yes, I want to go back to this.
Yes. No, that's not. So if you, so like, say he wants to get in contact with you, do I just give him your email address, or do you want me to like basically lead him to you on Facebook?
Yeah, on Facebook is fine. Right.
Okay.
Right. So, that's, here we go. This is what I want to show. The owner of this program, right, or of all these things, if they say, how to do this, the 9 tasks of doing, number 1 as a task of doing is self-honesty and honesty. Oh, holy shit. I mean, this is not just something that, no, it's a task of doing. This is like a requirement for every single session. Holy shit. I mean, your entire program right there is premised on self-honesty and honesty. Now,
Yes.
obviously, it takes a while to get there and it's layers to go through, but okay. Then you've got all the zooming and posting and application and putting together. All right. But this is a lot of doing. It's like a job, and
Yes.
that's the point. Because why is this? I'm still on this answering the question. If Damien or the owner says to you, yeah, but Jessica, you're all excited and it's like you're a missionary now, but why should I believe you? That's the point. You don't want to just say this is valuable because I say so. It's valuable because of this, and this, right? That's
Yes.
the only way it's meant to come across. So this, there's all of this, the filling of their time with something meaningful and significant, something that's going to make them into real people is a huge deal. Why? Because almost every single resident, and I'm just saying almost every single, because I don't like absolutes and I don't want to be arrogant, but I'll put money on it that every single resident has had a non-existent education.
Nope.
Like you weren't educated to be a real person.
Nope.
You learned the
I was
biggest
educated to be a robot.
Say again?
I was educated to be a robot.
Exactly. You were educated to be a fuck up, to be a victim, to be a screw up, to be a nonsensical, to be a complainer, to be all sorts of shit. So this is why this is so powerful, because it's an immersion in an alternative way of being and living. and alternative education and alternative psychology, right? It's a whole other way of coming at the world. But the key point is it's a re-education of the shit you didn't learn that you're supposed to have learned when you were a kid, right? But we don't. Our society is not set up for this. So
No.
this is powerful, right? It's
Oh man,
learn.
you know how many things or places or people would be out of business if the world was like, you know what I mean? And to be honest with you, I think I truly believe that it would be a good thing that, like, you know,
Oh hell yes! Oh hell yes!
I
Oh
mean,
hell yes! Because yeah, when you get bullshit that goes out of business, sensibility takes its place. Right?
exactly.
So, people all say, yeah, but we're going to lose our jobs. Look in history when jobs have become obsolete. What happened?
Yep.
They got replaced with other jobs.
Yep.
Right? I mean, the buggy maker, the wagon makers, they became car makers. I mean, what's the difference, And then, okay, I don't know how to car. Well, you learn to become a self-help coach or whatever.
Yep.
Life changes. There's always stuff to do. And
Oh
it just,
yes.
you're replacing bullshit with non-bullshit. So,
Yep.
and that's the point here. But this re-education, this is something that many therapy people who are trying to help don't understand, that you need to replace the basics. You can do all your remedial teaching, and you guys need to learn to take care of yourselves, and you learn to keep a diary or whatever, be punctual or whatever the shit that they teach the people. If you
Yeah.
don't have the internal way of living inside the basics, the fundamentals, if those aren't there, all that stuff is going to go in 1 year and they're just going to regress and come back, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
this is very important that people have this inner understanding of a way of living that makes sense to them, not to me, not to you, but to them.
Yes.
So everything that I and Way of Impeccability is premised on is providing you the tools to make up your own sensible rules of living. That's
Yes.
what the tasks and exercises of module 1. It's your intent is to say this is a starting point, and that's why it's so important, because we're going to come back to it. We're going to modify, adjust, update, upgrade those starting lists of intents. Yes, we're going to use
Yes.
that to work on, and that's why it's so powerful. So anyway, so lots of things. I am very happy to, and keen to do something, because me too, I could use some extra income right now. So if this
Yes.
is something that they can do, and, have me be there, do how many ever times a week is necessary, I'll be very happy. This would be a very profound thing, it'll be
Yes.
very cool.
Oh no, I definitely can see that.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. And also, just so that they know that the way I do things, I can do group. And in the group way to do it, it doesn't mean that we do and we go module 1 this week, session 1. And no, it can, people can get out of sync. It makes no difference, right? I
Yes.
have the ability to deal with people coming in at any time and all this. It doesn't matter, right? So it's not like it has to start at a point. And no, it can come and go. It's not a problem.
Okay.
People can be in different places of the program. You can be at the end and somebody can be at the beginning, and we can still do the things together. It's very, very
Yes.
cool. All right. So I have this already worked out in advance, right? So,
Yes.
all right. Wonderful. Wonderful. I love it. I love it. I love it. It's quite exciting. It's quite exciting.
It's very exciting.
So again, all I'm trying to say is don't go in there and, say this is wonderful. And they say, okay, I see you all enthusiastic, but you're not telling me why it's wonderful. I want to know why it's wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah. Very important. All right, all right, all right. I love it. I love it, Jessica. Too magic, too magic, too magic.
Very much so.
All right, all right. We'll see you on Friday.
Yes. See you on Friday. So thank you so very much. I appreciate you.
By the way, did you get to write out the JD episode and all the stuff from the book that helped you with that?
Yes, I'll go back and I'll send that file to you.
Oh, please, please, please. I'm very keen to see that. I'm very keen. And I'll tell you why there's a bit of moreness involved there too. You'll see. You'll see. So
Yes.
please send it, please.
All right.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Bye-bye, Jessica. Bye-bye. And
Bye,
say hello
Sal.
to
Thank you.
Natalie for me, please.
I will.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye-bye. Too wonderful. Too